Alrighty, everyone, welcome to our CSL Vainglory Finals for this semester of the 2017-2018 season. It's going to be between Cal State Long Beach and the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign is going to be our two teams here, and it is going to be a best of five, guys. So we're going to have that as a special treat for you tonight. As always, I am S-Ruff, and with me is Belligerent.
Hey everybody, welcome in tonight. A very exciting matchup here. Both teams, Cal State Long Beach and Illinois, come in with a 3-1 record on the season, and obviously both winning all of their playoff matches. Cal State taking their only loss to Cal State Fullerton, an in-state rival, and Illinois losing to Purdue, who looked like a bit of a powerhouse, but did fall in the playoffs. Last week, we got to see Cal State Long Beach win over Toronto, who is led by Brutal Turtle. A bit of an interesting matchup when we got to watch that. Left us with a little bit of question marks as to which team we were exactly going to get to see here in the finals, but we're going to get to figure it out tonight. Best of five, as S-Ruff mentioned. So these teams really have to step it up, show up to play tonight. Some things from the CSL calendar to know about. Spring groups are coming soon. You'll hear about those in the upcoming weeks. League of Legends JV1 and JV2 registration is still open. So if you are a League of Legends collegiate player, check that out and get your team registered. Spring season returns for most people on for most leagues on January 13th. Starting next Monday, we will also be running vodcasts of matches from the fall on both channels. And next Friday, the quad will have its final episode of the fall. But after this match, make sure you stick around because we will be followed immediately by an episode of the quad. As always, if you want to join our Discord, make sure you type !Discord in the chat. Follow CSL on Twitter at @CStarLeague. Follow the Vainglory community, specifically at CSL Vainglory, and check out CSL on Facebook at facebook.com/CStarLeague. And as always, we want to give nothing but gratitude to Twitch, who has supported CSL in many different ways. Make sure to show them some love and check out and keep an eye out for future things to get involved in. You can follow Twitch on Twitter at Twitch and on Facebook at facebook.com/Twitch. So really excited about tonight's matchup, S-Ruff. A new patch just dropped 2.11, so there are a lot of changes, and to be honest, I'm not familiar with them all, so I wonder how much these teams have really studied them, and I wonder if we're going to see the drafts kind of strategize. I can't even talk right now.
It happens.
Plan around the changes in 2.11. What do you think is the most significant change coming out of 2.11 that could affect this match?
So obviously no one will be able to pick Varia, the new hero, because that will just be that. Even though the 2.11 changes are in, I believe we're still sticking with the fact that she hasn't been out a week, so she's not available for glory purchase yet. So we're gonna be no Varia. If she was allowed, I would say she's the biggest thing because she is a monster of a hero that is hard to deal with, is the only way to put it, even though I don't see her very often because she's banned all the time. But I feel some of the balance changes that they did to Clockwork using heroes, I think, is probably going to be the biggest change that I've noticed so far. They kind of tweaked Batista a little bit. They tweaked a couple other heroes a little bit to make it so that the Clockwork wasn't as strong. It came onto the scene, and I started using it on almost all captains just because it felt so strong. Anybody that could do any damage, it would just give you that more utility feel because of the cooldowns. But it's going to be interesting to see because like I said, it's a new meta, and you said it too. You haven't seen too much of this, and I honestly haven't been as deep into it as normally am. I'm not like 100 games in or anything like that yet this season, so it's going to be interesting to see what people carry over from last patch and what works this patch or what they try to carry over. And then if we did see that Illinois mentioned that they were trying to mess around with the 2.11 things the last couple of days, so maybe they'll come out with something new that we're not expecting that can either catch us off guard or, excuse me as my nose is leaking, or catch CSU Long Beach off guard.
Yeah, and one thing that comes to mind when I think of the changes in 2.11 that I recently did a podcast about. I'm significantly disappointed about is the Arden Gauntlet, the Echo Venn diagram gauntlet that we've all come
Yes.
to use and love. When we use it and hate it when it's used against us is gone. Arden can echo his gauntlet now, but once he puts down the second one, the first one disappears. And what comes to mind for me specifically in this match when I think about that is we have Maurice the Beast in this match, and like when I think Maurice, I think Arden, and the fact that that Arden gauntlet has changed is I think going to be significant.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes here. It looks like I'm resetting my device here, but we are jumping into draft. Give me 1 second here on that,
We
guys.
are in the draft. We have
There
Cal
it is.
State on the A side, and we have Illinois on the B side. So Cal State currently taking their first ban, and it's going to be Taka off the board, showing some respect to Taka. Maybe that's a target ban there as well.
I think it's more of we got wrecked by it last week, and we need to not let them have it, man, because they had a hard time with Brutal Turtle.
Still having Brutal Turtle nightmares. Kroll coming off the board for Illinois, and it looks like Cal State is going to pick up the Arden. At least that's who they're thinking about at the moment here. So definitely going with the captain first pick, it looks like. Yep, and they do lock in the Arden.
I think
there.
that's a great pick for them, actually.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick there to take that away from Maurice. When you're on the A side, that first pick is, you can go either way. You can take something away from the other team, or you also have first dibs on all of the power picks. So they choose to take something away in the Arden, which is probably still one of the strongest captains in 211, although we haven't really seen this meta quite form itself yet. Blackfeather jumps onto the board for the side of Illinois. Blackfeather still a very strong pick, I believe. I didn't see any nerfs or anything specifically that would lead me to think otherwise. Followed up by Finn for Maurice.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Blackfeather. I don't think he got any more nerfs. Like they kind of balanced him out a little bit. I think they balanced some more other heroes around him more so they give them a little bit more tweaks to buff them instead of nerfing Blackfeather more. Is I feel like how that happened.
Yeah, one thing that we used to see in Blackfeather builds, and we also used to see in Rona builds, is Shiversteel, and Shiversteel just got a significant change. Almost a totally different item now. I mean, it still does the same thing, but now it also has 25% attack speed added to it, which plays very well especially into the kit of Rona, but we might also see it come back on Blackfeather here, depending on whether this is a weapon or a crystal Blackfeather. Cal State going to round out their draft with Baron and Sky. So, kind of a interesting pairing there, considering the lore that goes along with them, and Illinois is going to finish this up with a Reza. So we have Arden, Baron, and Sky for the side of Cal State, and Blackfeather, Finn, Reza on the side of Illinois.
It's going to be an interesting matchup, I feel like. The Baron pickup kind of, it's going to be Darthlick, it looks like, in lane on the Baron, with Affliction going to jungle the Sky. Baron feels odd to me as a pickup when the other team already has a Blackfeather. Blackfeather wants to dive and wants to do a lot of damage. Like, you just get on top of people after, and especially a weapon power. Once you have those stacks, you go for those executes with your A. It's going to be interesting to see if Darthlick's going to be able to survive kind of the onslaught of the Reza Blackfeather combo. Both two heroes that want to dive with you, or dive heavily onto the enemy team, but also with the Finn pairing, it makes it a little weird because Finn isn't the best diver, so there might be a little bit of synergy problems there, but I think it's going to really come down to if the dives or the engages and the attacks from the side of Illinois is going to really depict the pace of this game and how it kind of shapes itself, I feel like.
Yeah, last week we got to see Cal State when they beat Toronto. They kind of were, it felt like they hadn't quite figured out their comp yet, because Darthrick started in the jungle in game 1, which they lost, and then they switched positions, moving him into lane and Affliction down into jungle, and that's how they took the 2 wins from Toronto. But that was, what you mentioned is the thing that I noticed about this comp. For the side of Illinois, you have Blackfeather and you have Reza, who the 2 strongest single target heroes in the game, in my opinion. Very mobile heroes as well. But then you have this Finn, and Finn is one of the most immobile heroes in the game. So I want to see how Illinois is going to play this. I wonder if Maurice is going to struggle to keep up with his teammates if they dive too far. So, but what they do have on their side is that Blackfeather and Reza are going to be able to keep up with the mobility of the Sky that's coming out of the jungle. So it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure.
Yep, and we see kind of both sides just doing the standard start. No side went for the Elder Triad as well, so we're seeing, I want to call it safety from both sides because that's what it feels like. No one really wanted to make a mistake early on and cost something big that might put your team really far behind in the first game. This is in any series, in a best of 3, it can be really important to not make mistakes, but in a best of 5, a lot of the time it can be a lot about momentum. As a team that gets ahead and either crushes early game or cruises through a game, if they're able to carry that over into other games, it's not just a snowball in one match, it's a snowball in other matches, giving the mentality of the other team that they're so far behind they don't know what to do. But it looks like I said, both sides trying to be cautious, not making those early mistakes, not pressing their luck, it seems like, just to try and feel each other out. It is only game 1, and there are other chances after this, but obviously you don't want to make a silly mistake to just cost you guys a game in a match like this.
I can see both sides of it. It feels a little odd to me with as far as how much these teams obviously change their rotations. We're almost 3 minutes in and we're finally seeing Red Rum go for this Elder Treant, and to not see that earlier in the game, especially with as much experience as you get from the Elder Treant. But from my experiences in some of like the live championships and stuff like that, when everything's on the table and you're in the last match, you do see teams start to be a little more conservative, and it feels like that's what we're seeing from both of these teams.
Yeah, just a little bit of safety, side of caution, we'll call it. And also, guys, just a heads up, I forgot to mention earlier, but keep an eye on chat for Tanya Juliet. She is going to be doing the ice giveaway that we are doing right now, so keep an eye on for her little mod sword. And we have a fight going on. Arden's really low, getting beat up by Red Rum. It looks like Gibson might actually go down here as, yep, Gibson does get caught out and goes down a little bit too far forward on that Arden without that Vanguard to get back out. Red Rum pushing the issue. The only person really low on the side of Illinois is Maurice, and he was just tanking that, and they get a lot more damage done onto X Affliction. She's probably going to have to fall back here as well, but First Blood goes to the side of Illinois from, it looked like a little bit of an overcommitment from CSU Long Beach.
Yeah, well, we did see Affliction trying to poke down Maurice from Illinois' side of the mustache bush there. And the Finn just a little too tanky for the forward barrage coming out of Affliction at this point in time. And I think that caused Gibson to kind of overextend to... It felt like he was trying to be in the area in case Affliction needed some protection there. And what that ended up doing was cost Gibson his life. Because Affliction has an escape, Arden not so much unless he has a target to Vanguard or something. But if you have to Vanguard one of your teammates in the middle of the fight, you don't necessarily have that for the escape. And I think that's what happened there. But definitely what Fsref said, keep your eye out in the chat for the ice giveaway. I believe I saw on Twitter that it was a 10K ice giveaway, which is significant. And I don't know if they're splitting that up into different giveaways. I don't even know if I have that number right, but I'm pretty sure.
It is 10K, I know that, but I don't know how they're doing it. So like I said, Tanya Juliet is going to be the one holding that, and any of the mods in chat you can talk to as well. As we get Red Rum in lane doing a little bit of poke damage onto Darth Rick. Check out the items here real quick, and we'll see where everybody's at. The Darth Rick already has that Sorrow Blade up as the Serpent's Mask comes out for the Blackfeather on Yorha, who is going to be, he changed his name, so we'll just call him Yorha, because I don't remember what his other name was, but he had an account name change.
Yeah, so he already has the Serpent's Mask. Darth Rick has the Sorrow Blade, as you mentioned, and we have the Fountain on both teams. So really the biggest difference I see right now is that Red Rum has his first tier 3 item finished, as where Affliction's still struggling to get some of that in, or get that, and I'm not sure what she's going to start with, whether it will be, we'll have to see if she's going to go for the, I would like to see the Frostburn, because you have so much dive on the side of Illinois, you want some of that slow, but maybe going for the Shatterglass as well. Actually, there are so many items now after they reworked the Crystal Tree that could be
Another
starting
big
now.
fight happens there, and that time Affliction took a Quibble to the face for full damage there, and she just got deleted off the face of the earth. Fountain came out right afterwards from Maurice the Beast on Finn, and I don't think they're going to be able to get too much more out of this, but then, again, it seemed like a little bit of an odd positioning for a Skye to be close enough to get hit by a Quibble or by a Finn, but this time Arden Gibson going back in to try and save Darth Rick, unable to get out of there himself after the ulti from Red Rum, and that's a 3-0 lead now for the side of Illinois, and they got it's only about a 1k gold lead thus far, and they're getting a little bit of jungle stolen as well.
And that's one of the dangers of Skye and for Skye players is I believe that was just a mispositioning off of a Surrey strike from Affliction that led to the Quibble. I could be wrong, there was a lot going on in that fight, but what you tend to see sometimes from what separates a great Skye player from just a good Skye player is the positioning. And I've worked with several players where they really love Skye. Skye is a really strong pick in the meta, but their positioning is just off, so it's not good for them to pick the Skye. And I think that might have been what led to the Quibble, was just some mispositioning there.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. All their kills, or all the kills they've been away, have been maybe just a little bit of overextension, or just a little bit in the wrong spot. But it has cost them the 3 kills thus far, and now it's about getting closer to about 2k gold lead now. But there's no real objective taking from either side yet. They're still waiting on getting their items up. It looks like there's going to be a Broken Myth on the side of Red Rum. It looks like what he's going for is his second item. Already has that Aftershock. A little bit of engage happening here. Good pull there, followed by the Quibble. Lots of damage done. Gauntlet comes out. Lots of damage going back onto Yorha. He's going to barely get out. Nice little Rose offensive there to keep himself alive. And actually, all the side of both teams are still fairly healthy. Both fountains have been popped, but there's low mana on this Reza. I don't know if he's going to be able to re-engage. I don't know if that would be the best idea, especially after Yorha just got hit by a big crit from the Baron. So they are looking for it, though, it seems like. They still want to go in.
Yeah, and we do see the Dragon's Eye come out on Affliction as Darth Rick takes a huge chunk of damage from Red Rum there. The Dragon's Eye first on Skye. Dragon's Eye did just experience a change to the way that it stacks. I don't specifically know how. I remember they said that it's closer now to how Broken Myth used to stack. I won't give specifics because I don't know them at this moment. I do know that they changed how it stacked.
You lose stacks slower, I believe, is how it works. And it also falls off at a slower rate. There's more stacks, there's less power per stack, and there's more stacks as well. That's what it was. I had to look back at it and check it. I had a glance at the item real quick.
Yeah, so for me, Dragon's Eye, a little bit of an interesting pickup here. I know that it's become kind of a common build on a Skye for Dragon's Eye to come out first, but I think against this specific comp, I would have rather seen a slow, because they got to do something to counter all of the dive that's on the side of Illinois, and right now they just, as a backwards Forced Accord comes out of Maurice, a little bit of a misstep there, I'm gonna guess.
His Force Accord did come out earlier. He just got it blocked by the Crucible from Gibson. As a little bit more engage happens, Reza getting the dive on the back of that Skye, doing all right. Taking a lot of damage, though, is Maurice the Beast. He still has the fountain, but they're very, very spread out now. And this is almost the perfect spot, I feel like, for the side of Long Beach to fight in. They have that wall to kind of give them a little bit of a buffer to keep away people, and they're doing a really good job about it. But Gibson, again, getting a little bit far forward and taking that huge burst damage that Reza's able to put out.
Yeah, I want to see Gibson pick up some vision here, so he doesn't have to body check or face check that bush when he knows somebody's in there. That would be good. We do see a little bit of vision on this, actually a good amount of vision, especially for how early this game is coming out of Illinois. So, and plenty of vision in the pocket of Maurice the Beast. It's still just a 1k gold lead, kind of a stalemate at this point. Neither turret really I don't think either turret has taken any damage.
It looks like Illinois' turret has a little sliver missing is all it is.
Yeah, possibly there. So, just just not a whole lot going on right now. We do see Darth Rick with the Sorrow Blade and the Tyrant's Monocle at this point. Looks like he's building towards a second Tyrant's Monocle.
Yeah, it's almost done, it looks like.
Yeah, which is it's a little bit different of a build. We usually see some attack speed coming from a Baron. Late Crucible comes out there.
But he's still able to get out. He does have his rocket jump maxed out already, so he no problems there blocking up the Quibble as it came and hit him. He did take the damage, but obviously not getting stunned is a big deal. Gets him out. Gibson also got out. He took a lot more damage though, obviously not being able to leave out like Baron. But they also did not use the fountain there, but here comes Maurice the Beast pushing in, trying to do running Quibble it looked like, but he unable to connect it. But here comes the extra damage, on point hits as well as a little bit of damage from Reza. It shows how squishy both this Baron and this guy are currently to the team of Illinois.
Yeah, no defense on either Affliction or Darth Rick here at this time. Just the reflex block from Affliction, and that's why they're going down so quick. You see Red Rum already with the tier 2 armor, which is definitely slowing down Darth Rick at this point. Baron usually does get to the point though when you're talking weapon Baron where defense doesn't make too much of a difference, but at this moment it is still making a difference because he's not fully built yet.
Yeah, and he does have a little bit, and it's just look at that. Reza actually dove in the back and found Expedition out and gets the kill, and then they dive in to get the second kill on Gibson. That Force of Core barely missed, but it does not matter as they do clean up the ace, and they are going to be able to clean up this turret as well. It looks like, yeah, he's going to stay around Yorha. Getting in there. Kind of an odd fight. They're kind of spreading out their team a little bit, and it kind of actually is working to their advantage because of their mobility on both Blackfeather and Reza. They're able to kind of chase after people without getting caught themselves, and with Arden has to make a choice of which way to go, and if he makes the wrong choice, then you're going to have that instance where one of your teammates is going to die because their positioning is offset.
Yeah, we need to see Cal State definitely clean up their positioning here. They need to kind of, and it's almost counterintuitive when you're playing against the Finn, but that's where they need to clump up, I think, rather than spreading out because of how much burst potential is coming out of this Reza and Blackfeather. Like I said to start the match, very strong as far as single target damage, and Gibson's just getting spread too far out. Now, if you do clump together, there is the risk of getting that triple forced accord on Maurice the Beast, but that's where the onus is going to come on Gibson with the Deckers.
Yeah, and a little bit of an odd series strike happens there, but Illinois chases in a little bit, forces out the gauntlet, and then just Rosa fences back out. There comes the forced accord, misses. The second one, though, comes out with the Echo. Beautiful Quibble by Maurice the Beast. Huge damage, though, coming in from Darth Rick, half-healthing both Yorha and Red Rum at the same time. Interesting play. I don't think they were ready for the Echo there, obviously, so X Affliction gets caught out and blown up after the Forced Accord, Echo, Forced Accord, and now they're going to go for the gold mine, but 2 full health people. Baron has double Tyrants now. This is going to be a little bit dangerous. Here comes the dive onto him, uses the jump, huge damage goes on to the no armor on that Blackfeather. They use the Polite Company to keep everybody up healthy a little bit longer, but now this is where it gets scary when you don't have defense, because Baron now has 2 Tyrant's Monocles for the crit, and then the Sorrow Blade for the damage, so he's going to move into the 4th offensive item, it looks like, as well. This is when the late game Baron comes online and starts doing massive damage. So it's going to see how it goes.
I'm curious to see which item he's going to go for last. He did pick up a Weapon Blade, so that tells us that he's not going to go for a Tornado Trigger, which is typically what you see on a Baron. Weapon power Baron. I would like to see him go for maybe a Bone Saw, because that's going to help him get through all of that armor that they're going to be building up. It also applies the Shred to multiple targets at the same time if he gets that splash damage, which will help the rest of his team. But I definitely wasn't ready for that Echo. I hadn't even noticed that Maurice had picked up the Echo, and that was just a phenomenal play, even though Cal State was able to kind of collect themselves, get it turned around with this power coming off of Darth Rick. And it looks like he may be going either Bone Saw or Tension Bow at this point as he picks up the Piercing Spear.
Yeah, the armor pen is going to be good, especially since Yorha finally, after getting hit so hard that last fight, has picked up some armor himself. Now, he did go the Serpent's Mask, Breaking Point, and then there is a Tension Bow as his last item. I feel like that's a pretty good pickup for their team comp because they are very bursty, and it just adds even more burst on top of it. If they can kill Darth Rick in 2 seconds, it doesn't matter how much damage he has because he's dead. So it's going to be, I think that's what it comes down to, is they need to blow somebody up quickly or catch somebody out, and they can probably just cruise past this Baron pretty easily if they have the numbers on him. Time will tell, though. It could be very bad. There comes the first Force Accord comes in. This time he jumps out of it, though. Looks like did he Echo for the second one? He did not. It is still Echo is on cooldown. It looks like he was used earlier. But the miss there, or the escape from Baron, is going to allow X Affliction to get a couple bit of stacks going here. 12 stacks on his Dragon's Eye already, and you can see how it doesn't fall off very fast until after a couple seconds. It's much more like Breaking Point, as you mentioned earlier, but that's going to be a huge item to have on Skye as well. It's just it stacks up so well against the Finn. Here comes the Gauntlet, though. Another fight breaking out. This time, Baron not getting far enough out, it seemed like. Just barely jumping into his own Gauntlet and then getting cleaned up by both Yorha and Red Rum. Yorha was very low there, but Gibson's going to get chased down here. Here comes the Skye. Skye has full stacks and an infusion, but she's going to back off because the side of Illinois is just, I mean, they have 2 low people, and they could have done it, but it's probably better to not give the ace here and give up more than you already have. Yeah,
definitely, and we're seeing... although it feels right now, it feels very back and forth. Illinois is up 9-0 in kills. They're up almost 4K gold at this point and 2 turrets. I still feel like there's the opportunity for Cal State to come back into this because, like I said, just kind of watching and not looking at the stats, I feel like it's very back and forth. I feel like these fights are very close, and we do see Darth Rick pick up the bone saw, so I'm happy to see that over the tension bow personally. But going for this Kraken, this is dangerous right now for Illinois.
Yeah, it's a little odd to do it, and then yep, there it goes. There's
and
the steal for the Baron. Yeah, and now this is going to turn really bad for them. Oh, Red Rum barely gets out with his life there, almost dying. They still have a fountain though, but obviously losing that Kraken is a little bit odd. I mean, they didn't have good vision or anything. It felt like they just kind of were going for it, and they thought they were okay. But now that just gives free pushing power over to the side of CSU Long Beach.
Yeah, it was very well timed for Cal State Long Beach. As far as when Affliction hit her death from above, coupled with the splash damage coming off of Darth Rick, it was going to be very hard for them not to get the last hit on that Kraken. Darth Rick trying to push in here along with Gibson. Red Rum and Yorha both very low.
Yeah, and the fights are still breaking out. I'm trying to fix something with the overlay at the moment, so we're going to let you take over most of this. I'm trying to follow things
that's
here.
Good. And they do manage to get a second turret, and Illinois recalled, but I don't think Cal State saw it, so they're not pushing anymore. Darth Rick very low, so he's going to go ahead, head back to bases. Illinois finishes up this Kraken push, and that turned out very well for the side of Cal State. The Kraken steal, Affliction did go down. They did lose her. However...
Maurice died in the process as well, and then they got the 2 turrets. Yeah,
Cal State did pick up 2 turrets, so that is a good push there. Now, even in turrets, still behind 4K in gold, and still down by 9 kills. But, and that is very interesting. If you take a look at Darth Rick right now, he's going for a 5th offensive item here. So he's just saying right now, either I'm going to destroy you, or you're going to sneeze on me, and I'm going to die. So he's decided to go for absolutely no defense right now. As we're on the other side, and Affliction did pick up an Aegis, which is good. Will help her, help protect her from the Reza. Yorha, on the other hand, has a full build, tier 3 boots, tier 3 armor and shield, and 3 tier 3 items. Going a bit of a cheaper route with that tension bow that you did mention earlier. I don't know if I'm quite a fan of it, but with Darth Rick choosing to build absolutely 0 defense, I could see where it would help.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. That's what I thought he was going for as well, was just going for that extra bit of damage, since some Barons can be greedy about it and go for these extra items. Obviously, I feel like Darkless in that I'm going to carry this game or we're going to lose type mode, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, either way, it could be good. Force Accord comes out, misses. Echo comes out right away, so they do have it up again. And he's going to run in there. Looks like he's going to go for the Quibble. Quibble does land the Quibble on. Does get the Force Accord back. This time, the only person that blocks it is X Affliction. Gauntlet comes down to separate the teams, but X Affliction is going to get blown up here by Yorha. That full build. Blackfeather doing tons of damage, gets the execute on to the Baron as well, and the triple kill comes out as he cleans up Gibson. That Blackfeather doing work for the side of Illinois.
And I think right there you saw the downside to having 0 armor. Darth Rick was separated from his team and couldn't really re-engage because he has no protection. So, and he was hammering Maurice the Beast, almost killed Maurice, but as soon as Yorha and Red Rum rotated back up, chasing Gibson, all they had to do is really just kind of touch Darth Rick. He was gone. So that ace is going to lead to a Kraken for the side of Illinois, and this could be the final push with only the crystal turrets up for the side of Cal State.
Yeah, it very well could be. We'll see how Cal State wants to try and defend this, I guess, is the only way to put it. It's going to be kind of awkward, I feel like. They don't have a whole lot to defend with. I mean, Gauntlet's back up, but it really comes down to hoping that Darth Rick can blow somebody up, I honestly feel like, and to not lose one of their teammates, either Exfiliation or Darth Rick in the process. But here comes the push. The turret's already taken a bunch of damage as well.
Yeah, and this turret's going to go down pretty quick. Almost no damage going on to Illinois. I don't know that Cal State is going to be able to hold this off.
Yeah, good gauntlet there. Really he got hit by the gauntlet as he tried to dash in there. And now the Baron's almost dead. Here comes a good squibble comes out. People are stunned, jumping back into base. Goes Darth Rick with almost no health left. Maurice the Beast really low, using his own reflex block there to stay alive a little bit longer. The crystal is going down slowly. It looks like, yes, Maurice the Beast gets in there and gets the last hit, giving over the triple kill to Baron at the end, but too little too late as we see the side of Illinois take the first victory in this best of 5 of the CSL finals.
Yeah, and just when I said that I thought this game felt a little back and forth, Illinois grabs a hold of it, takes him down. I gotta say that I'm not a fan of the 5-item build on Darth Rick, and the way that they were getting handled by Maurice and this Echo forced accord on Finn. I would have really liked to see Darth Rick pick up a second Crucible, just so they could block out both of those Crucibles. I mean, the side of Illinois and Maurice had to know that as soon as the first one was blocked, Darth Rick was an open target. He had no reflex block. Affliction, on the other hand, did have her own reflex block in the Aegis there, but Darth Rick was just a sitting duck, especially if his jump jets was already on cooldown. And you know, when your captain is the only person on your team with a kill, probably not gonna go in favor of you.
Yeah, definitely. Like, from the little missteps in the beginning of the game to the item choices, it felt like both sides were being cautious, but both sides were also in the process of trying to feel each other out. I feel like Illinois had the more 2.210 style where they're going to they were going more towards the dive comps, the Blackfeather, Reza, Alpha, stuff like that. We were seeing a ton of Rona, things like that. I almost wanted to see Rona. I know she got reworked and nerfed a little bit. Her ulti got nerfed a bit, but she was like the main counter to Reza for most, or not Reza, but Blackfeather for most of 210. And it was interesting to see that they went with the Baron against the Blackfeather.
Yeah, and it was really just a great draft coming out of Illinois. All of their heroes had an escape built in from the Arden Gauntlet. You know, the Blackfeather could use the Rose Offensive. Finn isn't affected by the Gauntlet, and Reza can use his ultimate to just kind of jump to the other side of it. So they had all of that built in. There was really nothing else on the side of Cal State to worry about needing to reflex block, except for a well-placed Death from Above. With the mobility on the side of Illinois, it would be really hard to place a Death from Above in a situation that was actually going to get the stun off. And you know, when you have two of the strongest, or both of the strongest, like I should say, in my opinion, both of the strongest single target heroes on the opposite side, you can't go a match with no defense, especially when you earned enough gold to build a full 5 offensive items. You can't do that because they're just going to burst you down so quick. Both Blackfeather and Reza just do too much single target damage to think that you're going to be able to get away with no defense there.
Yeah, it seemed a far-fetched idea to go that way. I mean, it could have worked, I guess, but I felt like they were probably too far behind for an idea like that to really work out in their favor. It's odd. Like I said, I feel like sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I feel like there were better picks for the side of Long Beach, and hopefully they choose to pick something else in the game. I also saw a couple people talking in chat that they were saying that they don't believe that Darth Rick is the best Baron player, so that's something to take into consideration, I guess. But
and I was just about to say that last week when we watched this Cal State Long Beach team beat Toronto, I really felt like Darth Rick was kind of the playmaker of the team. Affliction is a very good complementary player, and I just don't feel like Baron is a playmaking hero. He's too slow. He's too lethargic, for lack of a better term. And if you don't have the team that can frontline for you, which Sky is definitely not a frontline, if you don't have that team that can protect the Baron, allow the Baron to sit out on the outskirts, it's just not going to work. And I feel like Darth Rick we saw him perform very well on Blackfeather, I believe it was last week. Just a hero that can get in there, mix it up, make the plays. And I don't feel like Baron fits his play style and what his team needs very well.
yeah, I feel like he is a playmaker, and that if you give him somebody like, we saw him do well on Glaive, we saw him do low. Who else did he play last week? I forgot now. But he did well on those where he had the mobility to move around and kind of could take the fight in his own hands. It seemed like he was able to control that really well. But we are in the draft, guys. Cruel and Vox are the bans. This time it is going to be Illinois on the A side, and looks like they're going to go for the Blackfeather first pick is what they're thinking about so far. And it is.
Yeah, and you see them targeting this Kroll, so they must know something about Cal State. The Rona, good pick, and I think Rona is one that we saw Cal State do well on last week, and I think that's a good pick into the Blackfeather. Despite any changes, Rona and Blackfeather are still going to be. I would like to see an Arden pick up here. Makes Rona very difficult to kill. Functions very well with Rona. Although the Catherine pick is a good one because Catherine can shut down a Rona. So taking that out, I think, is a good one. Cal State gonna have to face this Taka again. And Maurice is gonna pick up his Arden, which is the captain that at least I feel that I know him best for. So we'll see how Cal State wants to finish this up. They need something to counter the Taka. I think we saw them pick a Petal last week, but it looks like they're going to go for the Fortress this week. The Wolves can track down the Taka, and as we mentioned last week when we saw them pick Petal, none of these kind of spawned minions that follow Taka around reveal him any longer, but it still does allow you to keep track of where he's going to be on the field.
Yeah, and I feel like the Taka pick is just something they noticed that we mentioned before, that they banned it because they had so much trouble with it when Brutal Turtle had it in his hands for the side of Toronto. But this time it looks like it's going to be in the hands of actually it is going to be Maurice the Beast. I don't know if that was not a switch up, but Maurice the Beast is on the Taka this time. This is going to be interesting. They did a little bit of a lane switch up.
Yeah, that's very interesting. They did do position switch up. It makes you wonder if they forgot to switch, but I'm gonna guess that maybe they just want to mix it up a little bit here. I thought for a minute maybe we would see like a Weapon Arden and a Rome Taka, because that
maybe
when you watching the stream during it wasn't even downtime, but during the patch update, they did. Nivmet did mention that he was trying to, bring back the Weapon Arden a little bit. They kind of tweaked the balances to where that might work, and we have seen Captain Takas in the past, but we're not going to see that here. So Maurice in jungle, as Red Rum is going over and providing some harassment. Arden going to win this trade into a Catherine early game every time, as you see Affliction on Catherine. So they also switched up.
Yeah, they did actually. I just noticed that Gibson is on that fortress. It mentioned before that Expedition did mention when our CSL people talked with her that she does like to play roam normally. So this might be a more comfort pick on her style, but she does get stuck in jungle sometimes. But this fight is breaking out like crazy. Lots of damage going onto the Taka, but not as much being returned to the side of CSU Long Beach. But Taka getting in and getting out, but Yorha going really low. But they do take the first kill onto Dark Rick. He falls first. Maurice the Beast is really low, as is Gibson. Both sides going crazy low, but Taka barely able to get out. He has almost no health. I can't even. I wish I could see the numbers to see how low his health was right there. But Maurice the Beast showing up on this Taka right now, doing tons of damage, and ended up getting 2 kills and an assist. Kind of getting KS'd by his Arden there at the end. But that's a good way to start the game if you're the side of Illinois.
Yes, it is a good way to start the game, but Darthrick is back in here to try to chase down some of these, and at the very worst should be able to take out this Elder Treant. I feel like it feels like there's a little maybe lack of knowledge of the heroes coming out of Affliction. You're not going to win a 1-for-1 trade against an Arden early game with a Catherine, and you're especially not going to win it when you're 1v2. So there was, I think she needed to just retreat there once her 2 teammates went down, but she chose to stay and fight, which ended up giving an additional kill over to the side of Illinois, which they really don't need. We saw last match how they snowballed fairly well, even though it was kind of a slow snowball.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Here comes Fortress coming out. A little bit of damage going on the Black Feather. A little bit of poke on there. I didn't see X-Affliction. There was a stun in there at some point, but I didn't see it go in all at the same time. So a little bit of trading going on there. It'll be interesting to see how well Darthrick does on this Rona. He made a point on it when they went to that Game 3 against Toronto. They did the Rona on Rona matchup, if we recall correctly, and he won that matchup pretty handily. So obviously, understanding the ins and outs of Rona might be something that really helps CSU Long Beach get some momentum here and maybe get back into the game. CP Fortress, though, is also really strong, which we're going to see coming out here. The burst potential is actually fairly high from their team comp. Maybe not something you think about all the time, but with the Law of the Claw from the Fortress, and someone with a high attack speed like Rona, you can proc it really fast and do a lot of burst damage really quickly.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what build exactly we're going to get out of Gibson here. If he looks like he's building towards the Storm Crown, I would prefer personally to see him just stop here at the Stormguard banner until he gets the Aftershock online. We do have the potential for like an on-hit Fortress with the Aftershock, Storm Crown, and Tension Bow if they wanted to go that direction as well. I think that could help, especially with a couple of squishies like the Taka, and like Black Feather can be very squishy early game. It can help Cal State snowball in return, but we'll see which direction he chooses to go. The next visit to the shop should tell us a lot here.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to go for that Aftershock, like you mentioned, just holding off on that Stormguard Pounder. Something I like to use personally as well on a lot of junglers, just because if you have a low clear, it's good to have that Stormguard banner to help you with that, get your momentum going through the jungle a little bit faster, so you can help in team fights and be able to position yourself better. But obviously that Aftershock is super, super important to do your damage with, and he's getting caught out this time by Maurice the Beast on this Taka. Uses the flash, does get some help from X-Affliction, landing in the Merciless Pursuit on to the Taka, keeping him away. But kind of odd place to get caught out by the Taka, almost getting killed. If he was level 6, I don't think he would have had a chance. But now he's going to lose his farm, it looks like, as well, as Maurice the Beast is making his way to the backs of CSU Long Beach, and Gibson is going to be probably pretty sad to see that his backs are gone.
Yeah, and one thing that we're lacking right now definitely is vision coming out of Affliction. Absolutely no vision, and not even really close to building any kind of fountain at this point. Just with whatever I can't even think of that. And the dragon, the Okart, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Okart and the Hourglass. It looks like she only bought the second time she went back. She has almost 2,500 gold in her inventory right now, so I believe that's why she doesn't look like she has any items, is because she hasn't gone to buy any yet, unfortunately. As she starts to trade again with the Arden, which is, again, it's even weirder to try and trade with an Arden once he's level 2, because he has blood for blood, so he's going to do a lot more damage.
Yeah, and Affliction again, still hanging out. Now recalling while Darthrick is in a 1v2 situation. very odd rotation, especially when Darth Rick had just recalled, there was the opportunity for Affliction to also recall along with him. Just some rotation timings I feel being missed here, and I think that's probably a result of the team playing out of position, at least the positions we've seen them be successful in.
Yeah, it's odd to see. Like I said, I know they mentioned it that they do play these other roles, but I don't know if Gibson actually plays jungle that much, honestly. So it's weird to see, obviously, when you have a role change, especially when you have somebody going to captain that was playing jungle, kind of different. I mean, I feel like you can transition from captain to jungle easier than you can from jungle to captain, just because of how this play styles are. Captain's just so different than all the other roles with all the activatables and stuff like that, and knowing when to use your stun or when not to use it can be a little awkward, I feel like. And we're kind of seeing that awkwardness come up in these engagements so far in this game for the side of Long Beach.
Yeah, and over the past 2 weeks now, we've seen Affliction literally play every single position for this team. So I felt like they found some traction last week against Toronto, where they made the switch. They started with Affliction in the lane and then moved Darth Rick into lane and Affliction down in the jungle. But here this week again, we see them lose the first match and decide to change their position, which is a little, I don't know, odd to still be figuring these types of things out when you're in the finals.
Yeah, definitely. It's something like that in the finals. Like, all right, cool. Let's just switch everything up. Kind of a big fight's happening here. Oh man, good stun there that time onto Maurice the Beast after he used his Taku to jump over there. Sorry, I know that's the wrong name for the ability. I just messed up. He used his A to jump over, and good timing by Explanation to hold that Maurice's pursuit to stun him in position and allow Darth Rick just the murder his face off. To be honest,
I believe Chitin was the one that you were looking for.
Chitin, that's the word.
I have also called his flip the Kaku as well. So yeah. The Kaku is the fox in the box move. So. Yeah.
I guys got a little bit confused there, but this time, Yorha's trying to fight Darth Rick, and I don't know if that's the right call. This is where that the Rona idea came out before. He's a counter, and then, oh, look, Gibson shows right back up after walking back to base, and then he walks all the way back to lane and gets a kill. This is that momentum swing we were talking about, what they needed to do. A good kill on Maurice the Beast on this Taka leads to a turret going down for the side of CSU Long Beach, and now the gold lead is in their favor, and this is probably the first time I've seen it happen. They pop the Fortress ulti to kind of fall back there, and now it looks like they're going back in for more stuff here. I don't know if they want to, though, after walking over that mine, but Darth Rick doesn't seem to care.
Yeah, I gotta say, I really like the comp for the side of Illinois with Darth Rick on this Rona, although he just falls there.
Yeah.
But, the best way to counter a Rona are stuns, because you stun her out of the red mist. However, there isn't a single stun outside of accidentally running into the wall of the gauntlet coming out of the side of Illinois.
Yeah, and it looks like they overcommitted there, because obviously Darth Rick wanted to fight and didn't care too much, but he was in a 1v2, ends up costing him his life. They trade one with Fortress getting the kill onto Yorha, but then both X-Affliction and Gibson get run down by Red Rum and Maurice the Beast as they just run them down into their jungle, no cares given, and now we're back to even footing on gold. I feel like an over-aggressive misplay from the side of Long Beach.
Yeah, definitely an overplay, and that's something that we saw, frankly, last week coming out of Darth Rick on this Rona, although he was performing a lot stronger last week when it was Rona on Rona. But they have a tendency on the side of Cal State Long Beach to kind of, what I call play the lemming game, where they just, they keep going in. We saw Darth Rick think about going in 1v2 on Maurice and Red Rum there after they get those kills on Affliction and Gibson in the jungle. He did pull up from it, but when you're constantly undermanned and outmatched in these team fights because of the way that you're choosing to go in and choosing what fights to pick, it's not going to go in your favor. And we see it where it was 3-3 in kills. The gold was in favor of Cal State, and now Cal State has given that gold lead back, albeit only by about 200 gold, although this farm from Darth Rick did just take that lead back. But the choices being made here is becoming a little questionable.
Yep, and this time they go in to do a little bit of damage onto the Blackfeather as Gibson takes a little bit of punishment back for it. Gauntlet gets thrown down, kind of splits up, forcing the Gibson to walk all the way around that Gauntlet, but nothing really getting done for the side of Illinois. Darthrick doing a bunch of damage to Redrum. Here comes the X-Retsu from the Taka, does end up getting Gibson down. Maurice the Beast is really low, gets the Fountain out, but now they got to take out a full health Rona, and all their team is missing quite a bit of health as Blackfeather is getting bursted down by this Rona, but it looks like there are gonna, and he does actually get two. He does end up getting the Arden too. Arden tried to go back in and shield the Blackfeather and ended up costing him his own life, but looks like here it is. This is what Maurice the Beast wanted. He's playing the Taka. He's making the plays. He's the last one alive. He's going that same build that we saw last week with the Aftershock and the Clockwork, using his abilities on cooldown as fast as possible. So it's interesting to see. Obviously, he does have on his way to that Broken Myth, giving him a little bit more potent damage. But this is what the Takas we've been seeing. Obviously, it hasn't changed too much in the 211 patch with the item choice, but with Maurice the Beast picking it up and Brutal Turtle last week with the build, it seems pretty good.
Yeah, and Taka is just a beast right now. I think personally we need to start the nerf Taka wave right now in this match, but it's got to be so frustrating as a player when, because the first thing that I look at, especially the way that some of these matches have been going, especially the way the last match and the build that Darthrick chose to go on that Baron, as far as, these teams choosing not to build defense, I look at the items where Darthrick has his Aegis, and this Taka is just doing so much damage to this Rona. So, we gotta keep an eye on this Taka for sure.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Definitely becoming a power pick. And as we have another fight break out, this time it's going to be Redrum going down first, followed by Gibson. Yorha's really low here, though, while X-Affliction and Darthrick are both fairly healthy. Maurice the Beast trying to get some damage done, but as we saw now, though, X-Affliction did take some time to get a whole mess load of scout traps out on the map and has been putting them down in fights as things have been happening here, and I think that might be the way to turn this fight or this match completely upside down on its head and give Long Beach a huge answer, because if you see if Maurice Reese is in vision and he can't go run away with his Kaku, you're going to be able to run him down and kill him, and he's not going to be able to heal or anything like that, and that little bit of vision all over the place basically from that X-Affliction is really paying off for them. Darthrick does go down staying to kill the turret, but he does get the second tier 2 turret.
Yeah, and I always say one of the best ways to counter a Taka, a Flicker, or a Kestrel is by being able to see them, and you see a beautiful amount of vision on Cal State's side of the map, but they seem to be picking a lot of fights on the other side of the map where they don't have quite as much vision. The mines are going down in the middle of the fights, but you still have to wait for the scout trap to load in order to actually get that vision. And I gotta tell you, Gibson feels like a non-factor on this fortress right now, and a lot of that has to do with his itemization.
I want to say a non-factor until he stole that gold mine from from the side of Long Beach.
He does get the gold mine, but as soon as a team fight breaks out, it's almost like Gibson is always the first one to go down. Only a tier 1 shield on Gibson, and Maurice the Beast knows it and is just annihilating him anytime he gets anywhere near one of these fights.
Yep, and here comes the fight again. Maurice the Beast is the first one to go down in this fight. Good vision usage there. They're trying to try and kill everybody down, and then this is the problem now. This Rona has a ton of damage, has 3 offensive items, and isn't really dying very fast, obviously, because they're not focusing her. It's kind of an odd person to try and focus, but Gibson didn't die that time, so they focus Maurice the Beast, they trade the kills for themselves, and now, again, this game is going fairly heavily in the favor of CSU Long Beach at this point.
Yeah, it is definitely going in the favor, although the kills are almost 4K gold and 2 turrets in the favor of Cal State. But let's see what they do here. They actually do pick up the Kraken before Maurice can even become a factor here. We see Gibson now with a tier 2 shield, which is nice. I want to see that Aegis come online for him. But I gotta tell you, I know they got away with it last match, but I really don't like the tension bow pick on Yorha this time. I would have rather seen maybe a poison shiv come out to to add the mortal wounds to Darth Rick. I know you do get the mortal wounds from the Ixretsu coming out of Maurice the Beast, but it's not always, it's not always the most reliable, and it's not always Darth Rick who Maurice is focusing. A lot of times he's going in on Gibson. Yeah. So I would like to see that mortal wound from the Poison Shiv come out here.
Yeah, and it looked like that was an attempt at defense there from Redrum, throwing the gauntlet probably a little bit too early. It was quite a bit of ways out, costing him his life as Maurice the Beast gets cleaned up as well. This time, Yorha barely getting away to try and just not give over the ace and give over this game, but this might be the ending push. Kraken is still very healthy, and X-Affliction is 1v1ing Yorha at this point, while her teammates Gibson and Darth Rick are just cleaning up turrets. Everyone's back alive, but there's a almost full health Kraken. There's no way. Yeah, there's gonna be game 2 going to CSU Long Beach, and we're all tied up at 1-1, folks.
Yeah, game 2 going to Cal State, and I think I just did the reverse caster's curse on Gibson there. As soon as I say it felt like he wasn't showing up, he becomes a significant factor in the next couple of team fights there. Not always getting the kills, but definitely being a factor. And I just have to go back and question. You're in the finals. Why are we switching positions in this moment, especially when you have a pretty solid, well-known captain in Maurice the Beast? Why? I don't understand the swapping of roles. I've never been a fan of swapping roles, especially mid-game for teams.
Yeah, and like you mentioned before, at this level of the tournament, you should probably pretty solidified in your roles, unless you have people, like, maybe the thought process is that Maurice has the better Taka, and they just thought that he could just roll the game with it, and he did for a while, but it kind of showed up later on, though. It felt like where they weren't getting he wasn't getting the kills anymore. He was just getting blown up because they changed focus to him, and he wasn't able to finish anyone off, and their synergy was off, obviously, after switching roles. So it creates a interesting dilemma, I guess, where you think you have to change something to win, but maybe you just need to stick to your guns and maybe think about the draft a little bit more.
Yeah, and I don't know if, maybe because it's a best of 5, these teams feel like they have the opportunity to change things up. I don't know what the thought process behind it is. It's very odd to me to see teams swapping roles in the middle of a match, especially the side of Illinois, who had just won dominating fashion. Like, I can understand, and we've seen it work for Cal State, where they lose a match and then they swap roles. They did seem to kind of get it together there. I was questioning Affliction being on the roam there and things of that nature, but they did pull it together. Obviously, they started getting some great synergy where they were waiting for Maurice to dive in as the Taka. Affliction would stun him, and Darth Rick would go into the red mist, which was just annihilating Maurice on that Taka. But I don't understand the change on the side of Illinois. I don't understand, moving Maurice from his captain's role, especially when I don't remember how long ago it was, but we've seen Maurice do very well in like the Challenger series in that role, and to be at that level of a captain and just choose to swap out of it is a little strange for me. When it happened again, I thought that maybe they just forgot to switch, and maybe that's what it was, and they just had to roll with it. I don't, we'll never know. So now we're looking at game 3. We're gonna take looks like we're gonna take a brief break for these teams to kind of collect themselves. It's shaping up to be a 5-game series. So
yeah, at this rate, yeah, definitely need a little bit of break. People are going to go to the restroom and stuff like that, guys. But again, we'll throw out there, don't forget, I know they gave away some of the ice already. I don't know if they're doing more, but maybe one of my mods in chat can let me know about that. But I forgot who it was now. It's Tanya, isn't it? Yes. Tanya Juliet was the one doing the giveaway. I don't see her chatting up in a while, but that was because we were mid-game. But I'm going to take a break real quick. Actually, I'm not going to take a break. I need to grab more tissues is all I really need to do. So if you do you want to just continue talking for a minute, or do you want me to throw us to a sound break?
Yeah, well, why don't you throw on some music there?
All right, I'll put a quick sound break up, guys, while we're doing this. I really need to grab more tissues. All the ones I have are going away. I do apologize for that. If you can see any of that running down my face, or you can hear it in my voice, I'm sure as well. But we're gonna throw that up, guys, and we'll be back for game number 3 here in just a moment. All right, let's do that guy. That's not what I want. Alrighty, guys, we are back. I just put it over the wrong thing, though, but here we go. Back into draft for game number 3. We're going to have CSU Long Beach on the A side this time, banning out that Taka, and their opponents who lost that last game on the B side this time is going to be Illinois. We'll see if they want to switch back up and put Maurice back on captain, but we are back, guys. This game 3 draft's going on the way, and we got Taka and Cruel already banned. You back, Belligerent? We are. Cool.
I am back. Yeah, Taka and Cruel ban, same as we saw in match 1. So let's see what Cal State decides to do. Looks like they're thinking about maybe taking this Black Feather away. I don't know that I like that choice with the Rona still being on the board, so we'll see which way they decide to go.
They're going to go with Grace. Grace is one I've kind of been hearing people talk about actually a little bit here and there. People are talking about Grace maybe being a power pick this patch. I do like Grace myself. I know they changed a little bit of how her abilities work, a little bit of tweaking. I don't remember the exact things they did, but I have heard quite a few people on Twitter or various places talking about how they do like Grace in 211.
Yeah, Grace, and then a Finn pickup on the side of Illinois. I've always liked Finn into Grace as a counter pick because of the Quibble, and the Quibble can cancel out so much of what Grace wants to do. However, Grace with her Benediction has the ability to move so quick, it can be a little difficult for Finn to keep up with. And we're going to see Gwen come out here.
Yeah,
interesting pick. Her Crystal Path is fairly strong, but there's so many counters to her on the board because she is fairly squishy here, so we'll have to see which direction they're going to go with this.
They pick up the Fortress right away, but yeah, CP Gwen would be something I would be interested to see here. Weapon Power Gwen just doesn't feel as strong as a hero right now. She just kind of seems to struggle sometimes compared to Crystal, where I feel like Crystal is more like how Celeste used to be, where you do a lot of bursts and you can control how the flow of the fights go by being able to stay further in the back of the fight. Glaive is going to be that last pickup. I'm assuming that's going to go to Darth Rick there because Darth Rick was doing some pretty good afterburns. I was about to say aftershocks. Afterburns on people. And the last pick for the side of Illinois is going to be the Samuel. So it looks like they're going to go for a little bit of a kite comp with that Finn in the front to try and deflect.
The thing that I'm worried about here now is like it is going to actually be a weapon Gwen, which I am not a fan of. Haven't seen it really on 2.11, so I'm not sure exactly how it's performing. We have seen Darth Rick play well on this Glaive, but I'm not really... They did just give him a boost in health, which is nice, because Glaive used to be that tanky brawler, and he didn't get quite as much of a buff when they changed everybody's health stats, so he's been a bit of a potato recently in the meta, but they did try to fix that here in 2.11. So we'll see how this works out here. It looks like Affliction is going to be... Well, I'm not exactly sure who's doing what, to be honest, on the side of Cal State, because both Fortress and Gwen kind of start out with captain type items, but I'm gonna guess it's gonna be Affliction pulling the roam, even though she started with a weapon blade.
Yeah, with that protector contract or the Iron Guard contract, it leads towards the idea that she is going to be the captain for this. Maybe they're just going for a little bit extra damage with that Dragon Blood contract on Gibson. Maybe try and get ahead in the early game, something they haven't been doing very well. As we see, again, X-Affliction having a hard time trying to 1v1 the Finn this time and almost dying there, actually. Again, we go to the fact that maybe she hasn't been playing it as much with this team comp, but she seems to be struggling in some of these early matchups where she thinks she can try and 1v1 and trade damage with the other enemy captain, and ends up losing most of her health in the process, and her flask as well. So this is going to be a pressure from the side of Illinois, it looks like.
Yeah, and maybe reverting back to a little bit of the early day Gwen. Gwen used to be able to basically trade with anybody hero on the map early game, and we do see First Blood go to the side of Illinois, and it looks like they may even end up with a triple here.
Yeah, they should pretty easily get the 3 kills here. They do get it. Obviously, no ace because we're so early in the game, only minute 40 into the game. But now it's 3-1. This is shaping up to be exactly the same as last game, where X-Affliction got caught out, took a little bit too much damage, and then they ended up giving First Blood and getting cleaned up by the side of Illinois. And CSU Long Beach really needs to... I think they need to like rethink what they're doing in a lot of situations, because they're just putting themselves into like losing situations and having to claw their way back every time, it feels like.
Yeah, I really liked that push from Red Rum, but he did make the smart choice choosing not to 1v2. Oh,
yeah, a good little move there by Darth Rick. He hid in the brush, so Yorha wasn't aware that he was there. Comes out with the afterburn and just sets him up perfectly for the easy kill. Good move by Darth Rick there, but maybe a little oddly placed by Yorha, not knowing where Darth Rick was. But as we see Maurice the Beast just trying to handle the wave. Obviously there's a huge wave on his side, so he's not going to be able to, he doesn't have to worry about holding it, but just an odd little play there from Yorha to get caught out like that. I missed where Darth Rick had gone, but normally if you don't see him, you should be pretty careful, because obviously you get hit in the wrong position against the Glaive, you're probably going to die. A lot of damage going in on X-Affliction there as the poke comp. This is what I kind of figured, that now that I see it, I'm more okay with it that they went weapon power grid, because they are doing exactly what they should be doing. They're letting Finn keep them healthy with the polite company, and then just poking down turrets and poking down champions with Samuel and Gwen, and it's really nice to see it this way. As Afterburn comes in, but he hit the Finn with it, so it doesn't do anything, so he dies right away. The barely Gwen getting out of there. It didn't look like the proc from the Dragon's Blood contract, or at least I don't know if it got procced or not, but it wasn't enough damage to clean it up, and now they're gonna have to run for their lives as they get poked down as they run away. Really well done by Illinois so far to
really well done by
utilize
Illinois.
This comp.
And a little sloppy there from Cal State. It looked like they had 2 of them, Yorha and Maurice, basically dead to rights, and somehow Illinois was able to turn it around and poke out both Affliction and Gibson, make them turn, tuck tail and run. They do have the poke comp, however, I still don't know that I'm a fan of the weapon power Gwen, because she's better poke with Crystal. And, to be honest, I think there's probably just stronger weapon heroes to pick, like a Vox, for example. Even a Kestrel would have given you a little better weapon power poke than a Gwen.
That's true. How do you feel about the Dragon's Eye first on the Samuel, though? Because I just saw that as his first item for Red Realm.
Dragon's Eye on the Samuel I like the item on him. I don't necessarily. I think it's the right pick to answer your question. I don't necessarily think Frostburn works in this scenario because Glaive has the Afterburn, Grace has the Benediction, Gibson has the Truth of the Tooth. So they just have all of these methods to gap close where the Frostburn isn't going to help kite necessarily. So I do like the Dragon's Eye. I would expect to see the Eve of Harvest come out after this as well. So I do think the Dragon's Eye is the right move.
Yeah, I agree with how you explained it. Makes perfect sense. Obviously, the Frostburn's not going to do you a whole lot of good because there's just so many ways of closing the gap for the side of Long Beach. But the poke damage, and like we mentioned that I keep saying the poke that they're doing, Dragon Eye works really well with poke because you just sit there and build stacks, and then eventually you hit like a truck.
Yeah, and the other thing, like if you do need a little bit of slow, if you're trying to chase somebody down or something, Yorha on this Gwen does have the buckshot that will slow them down. So you do have kind of a built-in slow on this Gwen. So I don't, with the Frostburn not being as strong into this comp with all of these gap closers, I like the Dragon's Eye even more because you do have a slow if you need it coming out of the Gwen.
Yeah, they're not hindering themselves completely by not having a Frostburn, so they don't have any slows at all. But obviously they can do a little bit of displacement as well with Marisa Beast on the Finn. The Polite Company able to kind of pull people back. If used properly, it can stop some of this advancement from the side of Long Beach. But it also, the Quibble, once he gets his stun, is going to do a lot of damage. There goes the Oblivion. It only lands on X Affliction, but she's really low now. There comes the Afterburn out, Fountain to follow, and now Gibson's coming up with a Fortress ulti to try and deter this. But it looks like it's more of a save Affliction than trying to re-engage, because both X Affliction, she's only got like 200 life, and now Darth Rick getting poked out by that, tons of damage by both Gwen and Samuel. I don't know if he's going to be able to stay in front much longer. Here comes the Drifting Dark through, and they're going to have to fall back, and they want Finn to take this, but he's not going to get the aggro right away, so they don't think they want to do this anymore. But a good little play there, using the Skedaddle on Gwen to get over a little bit the movement speed, close the gap onto Darth Rick and get the kill. And now this should be the easiest turn of their lives, now that they have a couple minions here, and they do end up getting another kill and the third kill as well, and that gives them the ace buff, and that's a huge misplay from the side of CSU Long Beach.
It is, and I'm gonna go a little unorthodox here. I would have rather seen Affliction just let them kill her if she couldn't escape on her own. She popped the fountain basically to just save herself, because Darth Rick was full when she popped that fountain. And all she could do after that point was hang out behind the turret. She could provide no defense, no peel, nothing for her team because she was so low. And had she just taken the death, by the time Illinois was actually able to get to that turret, she would have been back up because the death timers are so low, and she would have had fountain. But she popped the fountain to save herself, and it was down for the next minute. And for that next minute, she had to just hide behind the turret. And they end up giving away the ace, as where I think that if she goes ahead, tries to escape without the fountain, if she does end up dying, she respawns, still has the fountain, and with Grace's movement speed, she's able to regroup with that fight. And worst case scenario, the turret goes down anyway. So, but like, they gained nothing other than delaying the inevitable by popping that fountain to save her. Whereas she just takes the death. She can come back, rejoin the fight sooner than what she did, and would have had the fountain for her team.
Yeah, a little bit of misplays there, I feel like, and then Gibson and Darth Rick trying to just deter the push. really hard to do is double melee when you have a Samuel and a Gwen just shooting at you, obviously. But now Grace goes in.
Well,
with
yeah,
the engagement. That was
it's
kinda weird.
actually a triple melee comp. So,
Oh yeah, technically it is triple melee.
you know, it's gonna be difficult for them to play into this. And I think, to be honest, this Finn pick really kind of pulls this poke comp together.
No pun
because-
intended, as he pulls everyone in with that
Yeah.
Force Accord, and the fight is breaking out like crazy. Both Gwen and Samuel are both still full health for the most part, but X Affliction got knocked down pretty low early in the fight. Fountain was used for both sides, and now it looks like Darth Rick's just trying to get some extra gold in here. A hero does end up dying. X Affliction gets killed by the Gwen in a 1v1, and Darth Rick just getting the backs, and he looks like he's going to try and... Oh, he missed the afterburn over the wall. Now he's in trouble. He might actually be dead here because of that. And it looks like he actually is. I don't know how much longer he has on the afterburn. It doesn't actually matter because he doesn't have the energy for it. So missing the afterburn over the wall to hide in their base and recall ends up costing Darth Rick his life. He gets the backs, but he ends up giving over another kill.
Yeah, and I understand the instinct to try to just stay alive and buy time, but what he did is he really staggered his death timer from the rest of his team now. So, you know, Illinois, Yorha did recall, but that staggering death timer, whereas if he had just taken the backs and then let the team finish him off, you know, they could have regrouped a little quicker here and not been so spread apart like they are now. Affliction caught out up in the lane, taking damage by the rest of the farms. Just a little lack of synergy here. And
Oh, good.
And there we
There's
go
the
again.
synergy as it comes in. Good afterburn onto the Samuel. Lots of damage done, but here comes the Drifting Dark through. Huge damage going through. Beautiful Force Accord again. Here comes the heal off from Grace, but it's not going to be enough. Samuel just barely surviving on the outskirts of this fight. Finally gets stuns up and dies, but now it's Gwen and Finn versus Fortress. And unfortunately, he just used his Dragon Blood contact, but you can't proc that yourself. And Gwen, Yorha with another triple kill, doing work on this Gwen. And the items are kind of interesting too. And now that I look at it, he actually just went Star Blade straight into a breaking point.
yeah, definitely. You know, it's probably different from what people are used to seeing on a weapon Gwen, but because of the changes to her heroic perk, you know, that tension bow Gwen not really as effective as it used to be. You
Yeah.
know, and as I was saying before, I really think that this is a great draft on the side of Illinois. This Finn pulls together this poke comp, and the reason that it does, and you see it time and time again, is because all that Cal State can do is engage. You have the afterburn from Darth Rick, you have the Truth of the Tooth from Gibson, Benediction from Affliction, Afterburn being really the only one that can be used as an escape, but everything else has to engage. And even when Darth Rick gets his Afterburn on his intended target, you know, Maurice just has that polite company and that quibble to just stop all of the engage that Cal State has.
And here comes the engage again. Good engage on top of Samuel again. They do block up the Oblivion, but he's again barely able to survive here. Force Accord comes out, pulls them all back, and now it's Gibson in trouble. X Affliction does throw out the heal, and now she's taking a bit of damage, but here comes the re-engage. That time he hits Finn with it. That's not what he wanted. And Gwen, in maybe a little bit awkward position, doesn't matter because the afterburn missed. And then there it is again, the ace going over to Illinois. And you just said it's like almost like a broken record, but that's all they're doing is they get in there, they get what feels like a really good engage, and then they just don't have enough to finish off their target. And Maurice either pulls someone, stuns someone, or fountains to keep Red Rum on this Samuel alive, and they end up turning the fight around. They're just not able to blow up this no defense Samuel as well that we look
Yeah,
at.
there's just absolutely too much crowd control on the side of Illinois for the draft that Cal State put together, because they dive in like they're going to do right here, and then they run into the wall that is Finn, that is the Oblivion, and there's just not enough Crucibles to keep all of this together.
This time they do get the afterburn onto the Gwen this time. She goes really low, but she's still alive. And again, that was a beautiful Force Accord. That was going to hit him, but he died anyway. But keeping both of them back. This is Maurice the Beast being a beast. He's just going in and just keeping his teammates alive, buying them just enough time to, or just enough health to just come back in and crush. A little bit of an awkward Aces High there thrown by Yorha as the afterburn went over the wall for Darth Rick. But this is a very intelligent drafting, I have to say, from the side of Illinois. They're just doing the synergy is there. Something that is missing for CSU Long Beach and has been missing for Illinois in the past has finally started to show up. They're playing really well together right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this match right now is just all pure draft because there's like I can't think of a win condition for the side of Cal State. I mean, we saw them catch Illinois in about as far of a compromised position as they could, where they managed to get Yorha split away from his team with the afterburn, but the the polite company from Maurice the Beast that gives him the fortified health, fountains coming out, and then just so much crowd control. Literally every player on the side of Illinois has some type, at least one ability that needs to be blocked out. And so when that happens, there's not enough Crucible and Reflex blocks in the world to be able to stop all of that.
Yeah, and here they go again with the engage here. A really good Oblivion by Redrum. Throws it just a little bit where he was going and hits both Gibson and Darth Rick with that. Gets him out of trouble like it wasn't even there to begin with. Heals coming out from X-Affliction onto Gibson. He's still super low. A good little afterburn comes out, but it doesn't matter. 704 crit from the Yorha on this Gwen to kill the Fortress, and then they make an easy cleanup of Darth Rick, and X-Affliction looks like she's not long for this world either. Does use the Benediction to get out, but it's not going to matter. She's going to go down. Another triple kill for Yorha, and for us thinking about how Gwen may or may not have been the strongest pick here, with draft, like you said, they all do have CC, and I think that is why they ended up picking the Gwen, or it might be because Yorha really likes Gwen, because he's doing a really good job on it thus far, with the 14,
Yeah.
1, and 6. But I do like the extra stun. I think that if used properly, Gwen with someone like a Finn or a Samuel, people with other CCs, you can chain those CCs and it can create a huge problem for your enemy. I haven't seen too many aces high seem like they've been huge landing, but I know that they've been there, and it adds more pressure. Like you said, there's just not enough blocks in the world to stop all the stuff coming at you.
Yeah, and another thing to point out, and I know that at this point Cal State is significantly behind, so you can point some of that at what I'm about to say, but Gibson, with the build that he's choosing to do on this Fortress, just has almost no damage. Like, we see Darth Rick go in, and then we see all of Illinois kind of collapse onto Darth Rick and Affliction, and I've seen several fights where Gibson is kind of 1v1 on Yorha, but all he has is an Aftershock and a Clockwork, and there's just not enough damage coming out of this Fortress to be able to take any of Illinois down.
Yeah, as we saw there, sub have held the Red Rum. Basically, all that damage was done by Darth Rick, and Gibson goes onto him, but there's not enough there for him to be able to clean it up, and it's just another fight that they force because they know. I mean, I'm sure they know that they're pretty much done at this point, but they've been throwing their bodies at it all game, and it's just been the same outcome every single time, just again and again and again. Samuel and Gwen getting out and just living, and that's going to be game number 3. Going convincingly to the side of Illinois here in this best of 5, guys. Just a really good draft. I mean, they played it well too. So Illinois kind of taking it easy after switching it up with the Maurice the Beast Taka and coming back and putting them back on that Finn, which they won game 1 with, and now they've won game 3 with.
Yeah, absolutely, and it really was just all about draft, but also just not enough damage. Like, even if Gibson had gone like Aftershock Tension Bow, would have been able to like blow up one of these targets. But it would be a very interesting kind of project to go back through that game and see just how many attacks Gibson would get off on his chosen target, whether that was Red Rum or Yorha, and it was a significant number of attacks between Truth of the Tooth and all his other abilities and just basic attacks, but there's no damage coming out of this Aftershock Clockwork build that Fortress has in this match.
Yeah, that's I feel like the 210, 211 thing that we've been experimenting with as junglers and captains that you see mostly, because those are the ones who are going to use the Clockwork more often. But it's a weird coincidence, because if you can proc it enough, it helps with your ulti cooldowns, and that can be huge. Like Batiste, it was huge on. Obviously, they nerfed Batiste himself instead of changing Clockwork because of how it worked, because they felt he was getting too many Ordains off. But maybe that's the setting their builds wrong. Obviously, changing it up a little bit might have been able to help them out and make that game closer than it was, because it didn't seem like they were making too many mistakes. They just weren't able to close out kills at all because they were behind, obviously, from the mistakes early. But then even when they caught out Yorha in that really bad position all the way in their own side of the jungle, I mean, obviously they didn't have a sentry, but he still didn't die, which is a huge deal. So
yeah, well, here's the thing with Clockwork and the way that it works, now that it gives all of your abilities extra cooldown every time you land an ability and things like that. It's really strong on some of the heroes that you mentioned, like the Batiste, even like the Alpha, or any hero that just has just a game-changing ultimate. Fortress doesn't have that. Fortress has an annoying ultimate that makes it very tedious to play through all of those wolves. And so picking the Clockwork on Fortress just doesn't make a lot of sense, because his A and his B are up so quick, and the ultimate is just not that game-changing.
yeah, it does give him that extra health, but it didn't matter because it doesn't matter how tanky you are when you don't have any damage, it felt like. So
And when you're face tanking a 20 stack breaking point Gwen, it doesn't matter how much fortified health you're going to get from those wolves. It's not going to be enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the draft starts like it has. We're seeing a repeat of game 2 here, where we see the Kroll ban and the Vox ban. So we'll see which way they choose to go this time. Last time we saw the Black Feather come out, which was quickly countered by the Rona. But they are enjoying this Finn and the way they're playing on it so much, they're going to take it before
100% win rate.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I really would have seen, even when Vox has been on the board, Vox was not chosen by Illinois. So I really don't like that ban. I would have rather honestly see them ban Finn, because they just don't have an answer for this Finn right now.
Yeah, that's definitely how it feels thus far for the side of Long Beach, but they're going to go with the Black Feather this time, and let's see what their second pick is. Who do you think do you synergize with? Do they go with the Arden, or do they go for Catherine again?
I think Arden's going to play better, unless they're... And, Rona is still on the board, so Catherine could have been a pick here, but, and unless you're going to leave your captain on the board, I think Arden's probably just the safer pick right now. But they could have easily picked a Black Feather and picked their jungler to leave the Catherine on the board in case Illinois looks like what they're thinking about doing right now. It looks like they're debating between the Idris and the Rona. They go with the Idris here. We'll see if Red Rum's going to get onto the Samuel again or something else. I'm surprised with Rona still on the board that's not picked up right away, especially knowing that you're not going to get Catherine. I think Rona has got to be the pick here, but it's not. It's the Alpha. And so possibly going to see a weapon power Idris.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. I'm thinking a weapon power Idris, unless they're going to go weapon power Alpha. That might be weird as well, because they're hovering some weird things right now. They're just messing with our minds.
Weapon power Idris did just experience a buff in 2.11. The amount of burst damage he does after using his Shroud Step got a significant buff, but I still don't know what they're going to do here. But we are going to see Darthrick on this Rona again.
Prepare for battle.
However, with the Finn on the board and a Quibble coming out, whatever it is, every seconds, I wouldn't be surprised to see Maurice even build an Echo and use the Echo on the Quibble. This Rona is going to struggle in this match.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, assuming their positioning is correct. However, they do have Idris and Alpha, which can significantly, even maybe unintentionally, distance themselves from the Finn. So I would even like to see Maurice pick up, get early journey boots just so he can keep up with his comp.
Yeah, especially they are going to move another mobile comp that are able to get around on their own, going in with this Finn. Finn not able to do as much of his own, obviously. Obviously be able to keep up with movement for his team, but I feel like they're doing a fairly good job with it. They did it in the first game where they were able to use the Finn and have people that were very momentum based, and he was able to still make plays and land the force accord and the damage from the quibbles that he needed to. So it worked out. So it's just gonna I feel like movement or journey boots would be a good idea on him really early. So.
Yeah, but the difference between game 1 and this game where they had Black Feather and Reza is that Black Feather and Reza have that super single target burst damage, is where Alpha and Idris aren't going to quite have as much.
And this might actually be our first Elder Treant fight that we've seen in all 4 games, as it looks like Illinois starts it up as Darth Rick jumps in to try and cause his own problems there. Who did it go over to? It looks like it went over to... I can't tell who it went.
It went to Gibson.
It did go to Gibson, but he's able to live there for a little while. But Darth Rick does go down, as does X Affliction. And even though Gibson got the extra heal from the Elder Treant and the extra gold, it turns out not in their favor again, and they give up 2 kills. Obviously, they didn't give up that triple kill this time, which is nice, but another odd start, or a kind of rough start for the side of Long Beach.
Yeah, I feel like Darth Rick, although he has every time that cast him in the past 2 weeks performed on this Rona, I feel like he struggles to understand that Rona just isn't that strong until you get your ultimate on board and you get your items on board. And just diving in there, I felt a little prematurely. I felt like he would have been better off just kind of playing back behind that Elder Treant, waiting for them to get the Elder Treant low and then maybe trying to steal that away. Instead, he decides to dive in 1v3 when Rona just really isn't ready that early in the game. She's not an early game hero.
Yeah, needing those items to build up and do things themselves. And this time, again, Gibson does end up getting the Elder Treant while they were 2v1ing it at the bottom, while Darth Rick was 1v2ing in lane. A nice little good thing going for the side of Long Beach. They are getting some of that extra gold and taking some of those neutral objectives away from the side of Illinois, and that will help them keep them from getting behind early, I feel like. That's something that they need to work on. Most of these games have felt like they make mistakes early and they suffer from them for most of the game, or and then they have to claw their way back. Like in game 2, they were just struggling again, and then they find their way back. I feel like all they need to do is play maybe just a little bit safer, just a little bit more synergized, and they won't have to play from so far behind. And so far, they're only 400 gold behind, which is just the 2 kills. So decent so far. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, one thing to watch, however, is again, well, and actually both teams this time are triple melee. So it's going to be an all-out brawl here. But choosing the triple, and that's exactly what Rona wants, is a triple melee comp. Rona and Rhyme, those 2 of those heroes that really feast on the triple melee comps. But the triple melee into the Finn again may cause some problems for the side of Cal State as well.
And Gibson, again, it looks like, I don't know if he got that Elder Treant. It looks like he did because his health is going back up. But he had to run out of there, and it wasn't his flash, so he did get the 3rd Elder Treant. So that's three of those secured for Gibson, so that's really good. And he also didn't die right there. They looked like Illinois had made a good move with Maurice DeBeast coming down, that they might have been able to pick him up, but he does able to scamper himself away and keep that gold coming in his favor. And now with all that going down, the gold lead has shifted with some of the farm and stuff going towards the side of Long Beach, and now they're up about 400 gold. So interesting to see how just little things like that Elder Treant 3 times is a lot, but it puts them in a good position here to not be behind in the early minutes.
Yeah, and we need to see a reflex block come out of Darth Rick here very early on. I mean, Maurice is significantly behind as far as just barely hitting level 4, as where Affliction is almost level 5, so about halfway to level 5 right now. But when those quibbles turn into stuns at about level 8, if Darth Rick doesn't have his reflex block on line yet, he's going to struggle on this Rona. So we need to keep an eye on that, see how early he picks up the reflex block, because that's going to cause problem for him.
Yeah, the stun out of your red mist is it can be really annoying, but now it can be also a lot more devastating than it used to be, because your red mist is on a longer cooldown. That was one of the tweaks they did to Rona to try and balance her out, because they felt like she was too strong in 210. But a little bit of damage going back and forth here. There is no Sorrow Blade online for this Idris quite yet, so I don't think he has enough damage for that Shimmer Strike, or for his Empowered A to go through from his passive yet.
Yeah, Maurice just picked up the Fountain, so Cal State loses their Fountain advantage there. They weren't able to capitalize on having the Fountain advantage. A little bit of that was from the aggression of Darth Rick, kind of turret diving to cause some damage to Yorha and stuff like that. So when when the teams were all in the lane, Cal State kind of on their back foot there, so they weren't able to take advantage of any type of fountain advantage that they had. So they did lose that advantage, and still down. They're still up in gold a little bit. They're behind by the 2 kills, of course, but we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, kind of both teams kind of resetting their missed opportunity, maybe a little bit for Long Beach, as you mentioned, with having the fountain advantage. They could have probably pressed a little harder there. But now it's going to come back to a regular style team fight. Who's going to get caught out? Who's going to make the pressure? As we see Gibson come up and do pressure in the lane, and now a lot of damage going in onto Maurice the Beast. Now it's going to be traded back onto Gibson. Fountain comes out. Red Rum's really low. Going to pop that ulti. Going to do about a good amount of damage there to the Rona, but it's not going to be enough, and he's going to get blown up in the reboot state. And this is looking a lot better for CSU Long Beach now. They're not losing their teammates as fast, and they're able to close out kills. Something that Rona and Blackfeather are both fairly good at, I would say. Just high damage heroes, even though it's a CP Blackfeather and not a weapon power Blackfeather. They're doing a fairly good job, and he used his Rose Offensive well to get out of the fight after taking a lot of damage. And just the fights seem a little bit more clean thus far from CSU Long Beach. Obviously, forgetting that first little mishap where they end up giving away 2 kills, but they're still a little bit in the gold lead, and they're making progress. This is something that I feel like we see them do later in the game a lot, where they kind of come online later, but they make a lot of mistakes early on that put them in bad positions. So all they need to really do, I feel like, is not cause as many mistakes, and they should be able to do all right here.
Yeah, Cal State definitely with the late game comp here, with both the Blackfeather and the Rona coming on late. The Crystal Power Blackfeather can do a bit of damage early on. Already has that Shattered Glass. Darthrick already has that Serpent's Mask, but still really going to struggle until he gets some defense online, because Rona really needs that tankiness and the breaking point as well. Almost to the breaking point. Looks like he has enough to go get it if he chooses to go back now, but he's going to pick up more gold from the back rotation in the jungle here. And Affliction left 1v3 up in the lane to kind of fend off this turret push.
Yeah, now they're going to have a good kind of position for this turret push. Good job there by Affliction to try and keep the minions up there, though, so they weren't able to get a whole lot of damage done onto the turret. But here comes a little bit more damage back in. On point landing onto Yorha there. It looked a little weird because there was a blood for blood from Affliction there, and I thought for a second there that she had an aftershock, but then I realized that it was just Gibson with the on point. But lots of damage coming out from him. You said already that Shatterglass is online, and to someone like this Idris that doesn't have any shield yet, 418 damage kind of hurts.
Yeah, and you see that chakram from Yorha just chunked Darthrick down. Probably a good quarter of his health with 1 chakram going into this fight here.
Yeah, now they're going to go back in, and this time Idris staying in a little bit too long, and the on point actually finishes him off from Gibson. Some Gauntlet gets thrown down, does stun up the Alpha there for a minute, but then they're able to clean up the fight again, and there's 2 kills. They should be able to start looking to push a turret, or maybe trying to take their jungle, and that's where Gibson is going right away. He's going to go try and take that jungle, as Darthrick and X Affliction are going to try to get some damage on this turret. Unfortunately, they don't have the best range or siege capabilities here, but they are going to do a lot of damage to Maurice the Beast, but his teammates are going to be coming back here. Yorha already back from being dead. Good quibble lands onto Darthrick as well, causing him to lose a bunch of health and probably have to back off completely now. So good job by Maurice the Beast to kind of deter some damage to the turret, but well done by CSU Long Beach for sure with those fights.
Yeah, well done in the fight. I will, however, point out that I think they missed a little bit of a macro play opportunity, and here they're going to give up their turret for it. But when they got those 2 kills and they were 3v1 on Maurice the Beast, but they don't really have a siege comp, and they had the opportunity to all rotate down into the jungle together. I would have really liked to see them take out a Crystal Sentry, get an objective there, maybe even get the gold mine if they didn't want to go for Crystal Sentry. But the way that they're going to want to play this comp, and the way that Darthrick just needs to be able to go wherever the opportunities are there for this Rona, I think they missed the opportunity to rotate down and take out that Crystal Sentry.
Yeah, and then their own rotations of that kind of failed push that they did end up losing in their own turret. They do trade a kill 1-for-1. Yorha does die, but as does Gibson. But that turret kill is something in advantage for the side of Illinois, and now they're going to probably look to maybe be a little bit more aggressive with the vision or try and get their own invading done. They just have a little bit more room to work with. Marisa Beast gets caught buying here, it looks like, as Yorha gets jumped on by Darth Rick. Fountain comes out early. Alpha wasn't there. Alpha's there now, but too late because Maurice the Beast on this Finn is already dead, and they do end up getting their own Treant, which is nice, but maybe a little bit of synergy problems there, but another re-engage. Lots of damage going on Explanation. Flash pop from Gibson as well, but it's going to be a little bit too much. I'm not entirely sure why they wanted to push the 2v3 so hard, and they're going to end up paying for it, and just like it's not an ace because Maurice the Beast respawns, but again, hopefully they actually pick up an objective this time. Looks like they're going to go for gold mine and turret, obviously that kind of split push.
And while that fight did go in the advantage for Cal State, you saw there, you know, had Illinois not chosen to push that 2v3, they would have only gotten the 1 kill out of it, and you saw how they had to back off because the Crystal Sentry was there. Now, I'm not saying that had they made that earlier rotation, they still wouldn't have had the Crystal Sentry eliminated, but it's an example of the types of team fights that they're going to want to be pushing as this game goes later and later. So they really need to focus that Crystal Sentry objective, because that's what their comp wants to do. Their comp just wants to chase Illinois wherever they can find the advantage, and that Crystal Sentry being there is just a significant deterrent that you saw in that example just push them back.
Yeah, and sorry guys, I'm transitioning it over here. It looks like I had a little bit of a mishap with the numbers there. It is 2-1 to Illinois right now over CSU Long Beach. It is not 2-0. I apologize for that, guys. I did not get it correctly fixed on that, but now it is up. So now you know we are in game number 4. This is match point for the side of Illinois, but they are behind about 3,000 gold actually. So a pretty significant lead here for the side of Long Beach, and they seem that, like we said before, they do have the late game comp. So this is exactly what they need. They need to not lose as much. They didn't give up a whole lot early game, and they're seeming to transition a little bit more smoothly into that later game, which has been their strong suit for most of the season.
Yeah. So we'll see how they can do here. Again, they don't have a siege comp. This short range melee comp that they have, not really a siege comp. You know, and neither does Illinois, to be honest. The only reason they got that first turret is because they caught Cal State in a weird rotation.
Yeah, and we have a weird fight breaking out here. Gauntlet gets thrown down. It does stun up 1. This time Red Dog does get his ulti off, but it's not going to be enough to reboot. Unfortunately, too much damage coming out from the side of CSU Long Beach. And it looks like, yeah, Gibson is going to dive in there. A really nice Rose offensive and a poke out there to get the kill. And they should be able to just take out this turret really easily and probably get the kill on Maurice Beast as well if he sticks around. And yep, that is going to be the case. As long as they don't give over the ace or any over their own kills, they should be fine. But there's the ace, and there we go. CSU Long Beach kind of cruising.
Yeah, and again, now is a perfect opportunity. They're choosing to go for the gold mine instead, but they could have went for that Crystal Sentry there as well. I really think that's an objective that they need to get off of this map, but they're not doing it. We'll see if Illinois is able to use that objective still being on the map to their advantage to help them get back into this game. But right now, Cal State significantly in the lead, up about, what is that, 6k gold and 7 kills, as well as 1 turret in the lead. So I think there could be some cleaner macro play coming out of Cal State, but right now it doesn't seem to matter because they kind of have the upper hand, and this Rona pick coming out of Darth Rick just seems to be, you know, we've seen the Kroll ban every time come out of Illinois. I think we need to consider to start taking this Rona off.
Yeah, Darth Rick showcasing that he understands how to play this hero quite well, and doing some work with on it now. Maybe not doing so hot on it in the early matches, but just able to, you know, he farms like a machine. I think that's probably Darth Rick's most noticeable attribute, is he farms and he gets a lot of it done, and it's nearly perfect most of the time, I feel like, even when he ends up dying a lot and things like that. But they are going to go for this Kraken, and they do end up securing it, and they're going to turn right on here to fight. Yorha kind of running in there a little bit, having to use his Shroud Step to get out of that kind of unfortunate situation. There was an Atlas there at some point, but it doesn't matter because there's the stun on the Rona after she was red mist spinning. Crazy fight going on here. Fountain finally comes out from the side of Exploration. Yorha does go down, and this is it. This is their gold lead, just showcasing how well it's doing. But Darthrick finally gets blown up by Redrum, who actually was able to have almost full stacks on that Dragon's Eye, and his ulti did 721 damage there to finish off Darthrick, and he was almost able to clean up the fight entirely by himself, is Redrum on that alpha. But obviously we haven't forgotten. Kraken is still doing the push, maybe a little bit of a crazy dive to fight underneath the Crystal Sentry, but you mentioned it before, something they probably should have taken it out. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize for the Illinois comments too, guys. Sorry, it slips sometimes. It's kind of a thing. I apologize.
I didn't hear what you said.
I put an S on the end of Illinois. Is the problem?
Illinois.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So they give up a turret there for some kills, but yeah, they lose a fight they shouldn't have lost because Illinois did exactly what I mentioned, which is leverage that objective still being on the map. And I think that Cal State has had ample opportunity, especially 17 minutes in, to get that objective off the map, and they haven't taken it down once. So they either have to understand that they can't fight there, or they have to start prioritizing this objective. They're significantly in the lead as far as turrets are concerned, as far as gold is concerned, as far as kills are concerned, as far as items are concerned. So they even have the opportunity right now that they could have taken it out. It's only at half health, but it just doesn't seem to be an objective that they want to focus right now for whatever reason. Yeah, and so they're just gonna have to play it out with this Crystal Sentry on the map. And I think they could have had it eliminated off of the map many times over at this point.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that was what made the difference there. I mean, obviously Redrum got the ulti off, and having a little bit more CP this time helped out with the damage, but I'm sure the Crystal Sentry did a ton of damage in that fight, and that's what allowed the side of Illinois to end up winning, or not winning, but deflecting that fight overall. Just odd, especially with how much vision they have. They've been investing a lot of money into these scout traps, which are all over the place, and yet they haven't made any of that moves in to kill the Crystal Sentry, like you mentioned. But now they get caught out a little bit this time. Yorha does get the fountain from Maurice the Beast, but it's not going to be enough. Alpha going back in. Yeah, there's not enough stacks on the Alpha compared to the number of stacks on the Rona.
20 stacks on that Rona there. So, and this could very well be...
That should be the game with these death timers, as long as they target the turrets. Right? Yeah. But so interesting to see this, right?
Yeah, it is a bit interesting. To me, it was a mistake there by Illinois not leveraging the Crystal Sentry. It just helped them win a team fight, and instead they opted to go to pick a team fight from the lane instead of rotating through the back of their jungle and forcing Cal State to fight them by the Crystal Sentry. The Crystal Sentry doesn't do as much damage as a fully built hero, but you could basically equate it into the Crystal Sentry being an additional infusion for the team with the amount of extra damage that a team's going to be taking during that team fight, especially if you can get it to target the right hero. But all of that being said, we are going into game 5. This finals for CSL Vainglory has been everything that you could hope for, as far as competitively, as far as back and forth, but now we go into into something that's a little different from most of the tournaments that people are used to watching. We're going into the blind match now, and so this can go either way. We're going to get to see these teams get absolutely whatever comp they want. Now, if I am the side of Illinois, I am planning a comp that is going to counter Rona, because unless Cal State Long Beach has a complete mental meltdown, they have to stick with this Rona pick.
Yeah, I agree. The Rona pick is something that has carried them pretty much through all the matches that we've seen them play, almost. They just, again, Darthrick just seems to be on point with it. Like, it's something that he uses a lot. He knows how to farm with it. He knows most of the time when he wants to go in and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting to see how it goes. And yeah, we are going into game number 5, it looks like, and it looks like we're going to take a couple more breaks. It looks like someone needs to use the restroom though. So, for the side of Cal State, you said they're probably going to pick the Rona, and then you would expect Illinois to try and counter that pick by building a comp to go against the Rona. Is this where the super mind games come into play and people try and outpick the counter picks?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could go back and forth with that all of the time, but I think that, yeah, like you said, you get into the mind games, and then maybe you start out thinking yourself, look, in the time that we have seen Cal State Long Beach in CSL, at least the matches that you and I have cast and what CSL has streamed, Darth Rick on this Rona is a force to be reckoned with. And so if I'm Cal State, you have to have the Rona. That's in my opinion, you just have to pick Rona. And if I am, part of it, and what some people don't take into consideration when they critique drafts that teams make is what the other team can play. So I am not 100% sure of what Illinois can play, but if Illinois can play the comp, I'm thinking something like a triple stun comp, like
I'm still on.
Catherine, maybe like a Catherine Jewel Celeste comp, something that can just absolutely shut down that Rona. You could also
We're just on a short break, babe.
we could throw in Batiste, things of that nature. So there's lots of things that they could use to counterpick this Rona. But if I am Illinois, I'm picking a comp that works well together, almost despite what comp it's going against, but that has plenty of stuns to shut down this Rona.
Yeah, stun comps are the bane of Rona's existence, is what I feel like sometimes.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Sorry, I was getting distracted because I was getting questioned about food. So, but we're just waiting for a couple of people to get back from restroom, as you said, guys. You go with the stun picks. And what do you think? Okay, I'm trying to figure out the way to describe this. Win conditions for both teams. What do you think? You're our coaching expert here. So what do you think? You obviously counting the Rona is the one that you pointed out for the side of Illinois. What's the win condition for CSU Long Beach?
Win conditions are hard to plan for unless without seeing the comp. Right, you have to build the comp and understand what the other comp is trying to do to you to actually build that win condition. But I think the win condition for Cal State, just being blind without going into it, is you have to build around this Rona. You have to, Rona has been what you have been dominant on in the past 2 weeks. It's what's got you here to the finals. So you have to build Rona. I think that almost makes Arden probably your best captain pick as far as blind is concerned. And then, you could either try... You can go about it two different ways. You can try to complement it with another brawler, somebody that wants to just be in this mess, even like a Rhyme possibly, that just wants to be in the mess that Rona is going to try and create. Or you could go with somebody who can chase down, who's going to be a good gap closer against like a poke comp, because the poke comp could also be a team with lots of dashes and escapes to just keep Rona at bay. So you need somebody who can counter something like that, maybe like a Reza who has a great gap close, or even a Kashka who can kind of clean up those heroes that want to stay out on the fringe to try to keep this Rona at bay, not really give Rona a good cluster to build up on. As successful as Illinois has been in this match on the Finn, we saw that Finn is not really going to be the best against the Rona, because there were fights there where Darth Rick would just focus on Maurice and the Finn and build 5, 6, 7 stacks before she even jumped on a target, just because Finn was so slow that was the easiest target for him to get on. So I would really like to see probably a Catherine come out in anticipation of the Rona pick on the side of Illinois. But for Cal State, I think you just have to build around this Rona. You have to figure out what you want to do. Now, we did see in Game 3 where Illinois was able to build a win condition that totally countered the dive, the triple melee comp that Cal State built. So you, like I said, you have to keep that in mind. So, one of those assassins that can get to those fringe players, I think is the type of win condition that you might consider here.
Yeah, I feel like you mentioned the Catherine, and I feel like that is probably a better pick against the Rona. Obviously, the stun helps out with it, but you're not as slow, and you're not Arden or Finn, which is, as a captain, sometimes you feel bad as I play captain a lot. You're the enemy team's gonna make whoever their carry is going to want to stack up on you if you're one of those two heroes, basically, because you're a big tanky meat shield, basically, and that can be a problem, obviously, when you have someone like Rona who hasn't even used your jump yet and then goes in onto your carry when she already has almost 10 stacks. That's a huge influx in damage. So Catherine being able to try and negate that might be a good choice from the side of Illinois, and it looks like maybe, let me see here. Looks like everybody is getting ready. Everybody's ready on one side. Let's see if everybody ready on the other side. So we might be able to go in for this last one.
Yeah, and if you want to go with something a little more traditional and try and counter the Rona, you could go with something like a Catherine, followed up with like a Vox, somebody who can stay on the edge, but can still cause damage to the Rona. If you put a poison shiv on the Vox, he can slow down some of what that Rona can do. So maybe you go with like a Catherine Vox Taka comp that can constantly keep mortal wounds on the Rona. The Catherine can stun the Rona out of what she wants to do. So there we did see the Taka counter not really work in favor of Illinois in the second match, but that could also been just a combination of everything else. That was when they pulled that weird comp and had Maurice on the Taka instead of Maurice playing where, at least we all believe he's strongest, which is captain. So there are a few different options, but if I am Illinois, I am definitely planning for Rona, and if I am Cal State, I am definitely picking the Rona. So if I was coaching and I was planning these comps, that's how I'm going to approach it.
Yep, and it looks like finally everybody is back and logged on. We had, I don't know why I said glucose at the end there because I got auto-collected, but I was trying to say good luck, have fun. But here we go, guys. We're moving into the... I'm glad it wasn't on stream, but I let everybody know either way. But here we go, guys. The blind pick match number 5 between Cal State Long Beach and Illinois is going to be, this match depicts who gets first and second, guys, and the first place prize is $2,000, which is in the second place is only $1,000. So this is a $1,000 match if you guys want to look at it that way. So this is going to be A games here for everyone.
Yeah, when we see exactly what I talked about, which is the Rona pick coming out on the side of Cal State. Illinois opts to go with the comp they absolutely dominated with, which is the Finn, Samuel, and Gwen comp.
Yeah, that was a really good comp that I feel fits that style that you mentioned. They kind of like to play around the poke and keep away from the Rona and be able to stun her and have other means of doing it as well. And it looks like, here we go, last pick is going to be locked in. It's going to be a Rona, Arden, Batiste for the side of Long Beach on A side, and on B side, as we mentioned, it is going to be Illinois with the Gwen, Finn, Samuel comp that ended up winning them game number 3, I believe. So yeah, we're going to see kind of a reused pick here for them, and interesting to see the Batiste come out for the side of Long Beach.
Yeah, so I really do like the Batiste pick here for the side of Cal State, because what Gibson, if played properly, can do is ordain the target that Darth Rick is trying to get on, especially with the fact that Illinois is going with kind of this poke comp where we're just going to punish you once you try to dive in with the Finn and the Oblivion coming out of the Samuel. So Gibson on this Batiste should be able to ordain the target that Darth Rick is trying to get on and prevent them from getting to the outskirts and kiting like they're going to want to do here.
As we see Affliction take up the fight right away again in the 1v1. This time it's a little bit more even because Finn and Arden are a little bit more on par, but again, Finn was winning that fight. But go ahead and continue with what you're saying.
Yeah, and so the problem that this comp is going to provide to Darth Rick, and we said this in Game 3 when he was on the Glaive, is that there's just going to be so much CC coming out of this. I would really like to see Cal State. I would really like to see Gibson build a Crucible. You got to imagine that Affliction's going to have a Crucible. I think they're going to need a second Crucible, one to block the Oblivion, one to block the Pull, and then Darth Rick is going to need his own to kind of slow down some of what Illinois is going to want to do here. So this is going to be definitely a good match, I feel, if these teams can kind of can execute what they're trying to do. Now the win condition for Illinois is a little more straightforward than it is for Cal State, right? We saw exactly what they wanted to do in Game 3, which is let Darth Rick dive in, let Maurice kind of disrupt everything, while Yorha and Red Rum stay on the outskirts and poke, right? They want to play the poke game. They want to play the kite game.
Yeah, so with this game, do you feel like the Frostburn is going to be first this time for the Samuel, though, because it feels like it might be a little bit more useful here. He does already outrange the Batiste, which can be a problem for Batiste in general against the Samuel or a lot of other CP junglers. But if he goes for the Frostburn, then it can really keep him from being able to get into fights to get the Ordain on either Samuel himself or the Gwen, because they did kind of switch back and forth, CSU Long Beach did, trying to decide who they wanted to focus occasionally. But it looks like the little bit of tussle there, or attempt at a steal from Gibson, but it does go over to Red Rum. Do you think the Frostburn's going to come out first here, or is he going to go for that Dragon's Eye again?
I think, in my opinion, you still go for Dragon's Eye here. You do, again, with this comp, you have the Buckshot, which can slow. But I think that you're going to be dealing mostly with Darth Rick on this front line, and so you just want to try and stack up. You can't, again, similar to the Afterburn on the Glaive, you can't slow the into the fray, or I'm sorry, not into the fray. No, it is into the fray.
Yeah.
The jump, right?
Yes, it is. Correct.
So you can't slow that down, and I think you're going to be dealing with that a little more. And then, so if you need, you can hit the Buckshot to slow down Gibson to try to create some space there.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes, though. Obviously, I was just curious because obviously Batiste not the best diver, so obviously slowing him might be a little bit helpful.
Yeah.
But a whole bunch of damage goes out here as a little bit of an overcommit comes out from Gibson and X Affliction as they tried to kill Maurice the Beast under his own turret. It looked like he just popped his flask and was like hunky-dory with the fact that they were going to get themselves killed, and they end up getting both there as Darth Rick tries to come back in a little bit, did some damage to Yorha, but it's not going to be a whole lot, and that's a that's a 4-minute fountain almost exactly for Maurice the Beast, so no him being behind like he was the other game.
Right, and I think that we've seen over the the past few matches, or just over this series in general, that one of the weaknesses for Cal State Long Beach is just understanding the hero spikes, like when they're stronger and things of that nature. Samuel, one of the strongest early game heroes, especially, he's probably literally the earliest or the strongest level 2 hero, and so Batiste not all that strong. Kind of one of those. Batiste gets really strong when the fear comes out, but as far as damage wise, you really want that bad mojo to be fully stacked up. So
yeah, if it's not empowered, it does not hit as nearly as hard as you would want it to sometimes, and I have been a victim of it too myself. I like playing Batiste, but he needs that empowerment.
I think they just got a little tunnel vision trying to kill Maurice there, and we have seen their overextensions kind of come back to bite them time and time again, so they need to clean some of that up. Hopefully they'll be able to do it this game, and it won't just turn into a snowball effect.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, that little misstep giving the side of Illinois, sorry, as I do it again, the little bit of a gold lead there with the 2 kills. Kind of the standard we felt like almost every single game except for the last one, where Illinois gets a little bit of early lead. Here comes all that disruption. Oblivion lands on 2. Darthrick unable to do all the damage himself. Aces High comes out, blocked up by Darthrick to save out X Affliction there, but their fountain finally does come out. Both fountains are now down for both sides, and everyone's relatively healthy. It'll be interesting to see if somebody wants to go back in here. A little bit of poke coming out from Gibson to try and do some damage. There comes the Ordained right on top of the Samuel. Samuel might not be able to get out of this one. Yeah, there's nothing else left to peel, and Samuel's just going to go down. That's exactly what CSU Long Beach needs to do, is use that Ordained to lock down a target so that Darthrick can get in and just do the damage he's been doing all series long on this Rona, and just get the easy kills and give them the advantage as they go in to try and take this objective out of the gold mine, which should be pretty easy.
Yeah, and so I think we saw them play that the way they need to be. In the first little engage they did there, we saw, and it actually worked, and it ended up stunning her out, but we saw Gibson throw the Ordained on Yorha on the Gwen, not necessarily the target I think that you want to go in on, because Yorha has that skedaddle, which can get him out of that Ordained, even regardless of whether he buys a reflex block or not. So I think at least until we see Red Rum get a reflex block, which he just picked up at Oakhark, so probably next time that we see Red Rum get to the shop, he'll have that reflex block online. But until we see Red Rum with a reflex block, that's got to be your target, unless you see Yorha spend the skedaddle on something else.
Yeah, for definitely if he uses a skedaddle, maybe to get out of a gauntlet that's thrown, or even the fear itself from Gibson. He could throw a fear at him. He could use it to get out of that. Lots of things to get out of, but
right. And once we see the reflex blocks come online, I think the way that Cal State needs to play this even is going to be, let Gibson throw down an Ordain, and as soon as the reflex block or the skedaddle is used to get out of that, trap them in there with the gauntlet.
Yeah, and they just a little bit of synergy there. So big pull comes out, but they just re-engage. Really well done by Darthrick and Gibson to just turn as the Force Accord came out. X-Affliction was the one that was getting targeted there. She lost a lot of her health, but it looks like she might actually get away. There comes the Vanguard to keep her relatively healthy, but here comes Darthrick, goes back in, does end up getting the kill on the Samuel. X-Affliction is still alive. Red Mist comes out, and that fortified health is going to keep Darthrick alive for a little while. It looks like a little bit of back and forth. He actually is barely still alive, as is X-Affliction. Gibson makes the roam back up and cleans up the kills, and that is a little odd of a misstep from the side. I feel like I don't know if it's a better play from the side of Long Beach or if it was a misstep from the side of Illinois, but Gibson going away and coming back turns out to be perfect and ends up getting them 2 kills, or all 3 kills, and a turret.
Yeah, well, and I thought that was very well played from Cal State. You see them just stagger all of the crowd control that they have. The gauntlet comes down perfectly to stun up Red Rum. I believe he had just used his reflex block for something else. I could be mistaken in that, but just seemed the way that they staggered everything worked really well. Now, the thing to keep an eye on for the side of Cal State is Gibson in the Sphere, because a lot of players tend to just trigger their abilities, and that fear could end up costing Cal State if he's pushing the targets away, because these targets want to get away from the Rona. So he needs to, fear needs to be used as just to disengage, really. So,
or he could use it to try and force if he can find a way, it could be lever positioning for him. But one of the most annoying things to deal with when you're facing against a Batiste, especially when he has an Arden, is that gauntlet wall into a fear. If he's able to get them onto a side where he can feel them even just to the side so Rona can stay on top of him, it can be devastating if they get feared into that wall, stunned, and Red Mist on top of. It can kill the
Yeah, absolutely. But the danger to that is if it's not timed properly, they could actually use the reflex block to escape the fear and the gauntlet all at the same time. So I would really like to see Gibson, unless the timing is perfect and the opportunity is perfect, he needs to just be holding the sphere as a disengage when his team gets in trouble.
Yeah, I feel like that can do work for them for sure. Obviously, just being careful with those ultimate, not using it at the wrong time, could really make or break some of these fights. You're absolutely correct on that. We'll just see how he decides to use it. He does have his clockwork up now, which is something that, again, on Batiste is really good. But with that fear, you can use your fear almost twice in every fight if you are landing your abilities with that clockwork on him, just with that regular cooldown. As long as you're landing your bad mojos, you can do a lot here. But here comes a little...
Oh, and a little sneaky play here.
Yep, and they're going to come in and they're going to get it. A good time to come out, but Reflex Block comes out, Red Rum goes away. Crucible comes out, but there's no way Yorha's going to live that damage as the 742 bad mojo, which is obviously his power, hits up on him, and he just gets blown up. Samo trying to get out the other way. Gauntlet was thrown over the wall, so they could not retreat, and they are going to get the ace here. It looks like, depends on how long Finland's yet. They do get the ace, and they are going to kill, I believe that was the second life of that sentry. So now doing something that we mentioned last game, CSU Long Beach taking objectives and doing it really quickly and really well after they win these team fights. This is something that is impressing me more, probably more than the fights themselves and stuff like that, is they're transitioning their team fight wins into objectives, which is something that we haven't seen them do for most of this season. And honestly, it could be just the missing link for them, how well they're playing right now.
It is, and they are playing very dominantly right now. We have huge props to Affliction there for that gauntlet. That gauntlet was placed so beautifully, just cut off Illinois from being able to escape. We saw Red Rum try, put some distance between him and the rest of Cal State, but in the wrong direction, and they were eventually able to clean that up. But even if Affliction just gauntlets them where they were at, they still have room to move around. They still have room to escape over to that Crystal Sentry. But the fact that she threw it over the wall and basically used the outer wall of the gauntlet to cut them off and cut off their escape, even if they walk through the wall, even if they reflex into the gauntlet, now they're trapped inside the gauntlet. So the placement of that gauntlet was just spot on. Really impressed with that.
Yeah, well done. Force Accord comes out but does not hit anybody this time. That's probably one of the first ones that I've seen from Maurice the Beast that actually missed. I think he missed one earlier, but that's when he had the Echo. Or it might have been blocked and then the Echo didn't pull everyone in anyway. But trying to make a play there as the side of Illinois is fairly far behind at this point. They're down about 5,000 gold. They've already lost one turret. They're going, it looks like 2 gold mines have already gone over to the side of Long Beach. And they really need to try and pick a fight in their own, I feel like they need vision so that they know where the fights are coming from so they can position better. I feel like that's their best way back into this game, is to just have a fight where they're actually in better positions. I mean, I don't know if you're in a perfect position, but just better what they have been. Somebody's always been a little too far forward or a little to the side so far in these fights, and I feel like that's hurt Illinois more than anything.
Yeah, I would have really liked to see Cal State there spend a little less time in the shop and just go eliminate that Crystal Sentry, because they knew that all of it went lane.
Yep, and then a huge damage coming in through there. He had about 17 stacks when Darthrick came in, building him off of that Finn and then going right back in to blow up that Gwen. That's the problem you have with the Gwen like this, is they're so squishy, and this time Darthrick isn't behind or anything like that, and he has the little bit of follow-up damage from Gibson, who can just kind of follow in.
Crystal Sentry.
Hey,
Go
does
get
it happen?
the Crystal Sentry.
There's Gibson. Gibson's gonna fill Belligerent's wishes here and take out the Crystal Sentry for the third time this game, actually, which is again CSU Long Beach is doing work. The synergy seems to have just clicked this game. They are just all on the same targets for the most part. They're not in terrible positions aside from that first fight that gave away a little bit too much, but now they're just cruising. They are snowballing this exactly how they needed to close out this game 5 and claim this this season of the CSL Vainglory.
Watch for the pull.
Yeah,
watch for the steal.
Is it gonna happen? He sees it. Here comes the pull. It does go over the wall. The Quibble's not enough. It's still alive though.
Oh yeah.
Darthrick able to get it. He probably pulled a little bit too soon. But here comes Darthrick after getting that kill onto the gold mine.
So nasty.
Blows up Yorha with it didn't even matter. Oblivion or a stun lands, but it doesn't matter. Ordain comes through. They're running away into the fray. Darthrick should be able to chase this down. I don't know if he could take too much damage or not. Ooh.
Well, not even that he took too much damage, it's just that Red Rum would have been able to make it.
Yeah, he was
could have bursted him down, but that was and I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't know if it just happened to be in the positions they were in. But Gibson right there fears Yorha right into Darth Rick's red mist. So even if Yorha was, it was kind of the red mist and the fear were going in opposite directions, and Yorha just got caught in the middle of it. So nowhere for Yorha to go there.
That crossfire is what you would call that, I guess. The crossfire placed by this Batista just, again, kind of trapped them into a place where, a rock and a hard place. In this case, it's a fear and a Rona that's going to kill you. Rona her stacks are building so fast in every fight, it's ridiculous. He's almost full build, actually. It looks like he only has armor left to get.
We haven't really harped on this in a couple of matches, but there's no armor except for on Yorha. So her stacks even on Finn, who's a great target for stacks in the first place, but when you have no armor, it just lets her build the stacks that much faster. Yeah. And then there's no armor on Red Rum either. Her reason her stacks are building so fast right now is that there's no armor to slow this Rona down at all.
And a turret goes down, actually. The tier 1 turret for the Long Beach goes down to a minion push as they were trying to push that fight right there, actually. So it's a little awkward to see, especially since they weren't ace minions or anything. It was just a regular old minion push.
That is a case of we are so far ahead in this match, we're just looking for team fights. Oh, wait, we just lost our turret.
Yeah, that's exactly how that is. You're like, oh, we got this. It's no worries. It's whatever. Oh, goodness, we messed up. Yeah. My bad.
So, no big deal as far as Cal State is concerned. They're up 9,000 gold, about maybe more like 8.5. But, and that first turret, I've contended ever since they kind of nerfed that first turret as far as health is concerned, as far as gold is concerned. That first turret to me personally is not that important of an objective. When I was coaching Nova at the time I started telling him, Crystal Sentry is far more important of an objective than that first turret. So don't necessarily be scared to give up that first turret. And it's also why I like to see teams prioritize the Crystal Sentry over the first turret, because the first turret is so weak right now that it's going to go down at some point in time if you have any hope of winning anyway. It's not like the old days where you need to try and rush the first turret to give yourself some breathing room. It's a really weak turret at the moment, so not that big a deal in my opinion for Cal State.
Yeah, and like you said, they're already in that let's just fight and win mode because we're so far ahead. A good Crucible comes out there to block the aces high.
I did not even notice that. I thought that Darth Rick was back at base or fountain. I wasn't paying attention until the last second there. And what an amazing job by Gibson and Affliction to just cause enough distraction for Darth Rick to solo this Kraken.
Yeah, he was soloing it the entire fight, and they had a really good place now. Since Gibson has that Dragon's Eye up already, he was just sitting there building stacks, and then eventually when the side of Illinois wanted to commit, he had a bunch of damage and was able to deflect him, just buying enough time for Darth Rick to easily claim the Kraken and then come into the fight and clean house. Gibson does go down, but they get the ace and the Kraken, so that's a huge win in my eyes at least. As they go in, they should get at least one more turret. They might actually get two, as Darth Rick makes the smart play. This could be the game. This could be the series. And there it is. Yeah, both are down, and there's no way.
There's no way you're going to kill two heroes and a Kraken before this crystal goes down.
Not with full health. And
Cal State takes the victory in the CSL Vainglory Finals in convincing fashion.
Yeah, that felt almost the same as they felt against Toronto. They had some moments that they were, throughout the series, they were behind. They made mistakes. They got behind early, gave snowballs over, but they were able to claw themselves back. And then finally, in Game 5, they were not behind. Well, they were behind a little bit for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, but they were able to win a team fight, take an objective, win a team fight, take an objective, or 2 in some cases, which allowed them to just perfectly snowball this game out and claim first place in the CSL Vainglory 2017-2018 season, guys. That's it. That's $2,000 going over to the side of CSU Long Beach. Congratulations to them on their fantastic win here, and what a good series to go out on. I mean, we had our nitpicky moments about talking about people that may have made mistakes in builds or little mistakes here and there, but everybody came out and did the best that they could to win these games and just improve as the match went on. Something that I feel a lot of teams could have problems with, and I was worried about when this game started. If you get behind early, it can be just a mental block for you, but that's not the case for CSU Long Beach. They just kept composed, even though they had a couple switching in spots and stuff like that. They were able to finally pull it off and close out game number 5 and take home the win. Also, though, not to deter from Illinois, they also played very well. It was interesting to see. Obviously, I think they caught Long Beach off guard with that Gwen Samuel Finn comp before, and good adjustment, even though it was a blind pick. A good idea to bring out the Batiste there in the last game. I think it was a huge improvement over the Fortress, and just well done by Long Beach, and that's all I gotta say.
and you know, I think it's one of the interesting aspects where while a lot of our Vainglory, like and stuff, might feel maybe a little off put by the fifth blind match. One aspect that I do love about the fact that the fifth, or the deciding match, I guess, when it's best of 3 the third match, or best of 5 the fifth match, what I do enjoy about that blind pick, or it being a blind match, is that now it's all right, pick your best team and we're gonna pick our best team. There's no bans coming out, and it was really nice to see in this match that there were no duplicate heroes anyway, as where, you know, last time we had a blind match, I think we had like 2 of the 3 heroes on each team were duplicates. But
yeah, that Rona and Arden's double up a lot.
Yeah, I do like basically just saying, all right, pick your strongest comp, we're gonna pick our strongest comp. I would have liked to see Illinois pick a more, like, they had lots of crowd control, and we saw it work in game 3 where they had this Finn Samuel Gwen comp, but I would have liked to just see more on-demand stuns, right? Because with the comp that they picked, they had the Quibble was really their only on-demand stun. You have the Aces High, which has a long cooldown and isn't right, like, you have to aim it right. It's a little tricky to aim. And then you have Samuel's Oblivion, which is, you know, arguably the easiest one in the easiest ultimate in the game to reflex block, either that or Adagios. So I would have liked to see a more stun heavy comp, just knowing, like, you had to know that this Rona was coming out. So, you know, Catherine, Celeste, Koshka, something like that could have shut down this Rona. But, you know, we can sit here and nitpick, and we can sit here and say they could have done this, could have done that. Gotta give the props to Cal State Long Beach, because they executed their comp almost flawlessly in that. The amazing gauntlet coming out of Affliction. Darthrick is a beast on that Rona. Gibson with some fantastic ordains and fantastic fears. Just like, you know, we spent a good part of the series just kind of questioning some of the decision making that was coming out of Cal State, and it was just like it was a new team that showed up here in game 5. Their rotations were on point. They got that Crystal Sentry off the map, like I was critiquing them for in game 4. You know, they got that Crystal Sentry off the map, which gave them freedom to just dive wherever they wanted to, and we just saw some tremendous plays come out of Cal State on this comp, and, you know, all props to them. Great game from Illinois. We saw, you know, Illinois had the most dominant game in this match, where they, you know, when they first ran that Finn Samuel Gwen comp and, like, destroyed Cal State 24-5 or whatever the final kill count was. So they came to play. Both of these teams came to play, and that's got to be, you know, that's one of the fears whenever you go into a finals match, is like, right here are our best 2 teams, and you're just always scared of kind of a lopsided match. And we didn't see that tonight. We saw, you know, blow for blow, back and forth, just, you know, all out great finals here for CSL Vainglory.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. We had maybe some upsets in the earlier rounds, as we saw some teams that maybe, you know, Purdue, who's really strong, not doing so well, or getting beat out by Toronto, and then CSU Long Beach beating Toronto. So we had a lot of back and forth, and people doing, you know, lots of different teams performing at different times. But obviously it comes out to Long Beach doing it at the end. Somebody mentioned that we should do a top 5 team. We'll do that some other time. We do have the quad, though, coming up, guys. It's going to be, I think it's an esports business focused one, is what was mentioned to me by Cheesehead's Logic. He will be running that up here shortly. As soon as we were done, he will take over and put everybody up on there. But again, guys, huge shout out to all the teams that showed up this season. It was a great pleasure for me to be able to be here and cast alongside of Belligerent and learn all about the CSL teams and see who are going to be the star players for the next season, which is going to be coming up here in a couple months after everybody's done on break and stuff like that, guys. I believe, let me double check the timing on it. We believe right now, we're not positive on it, but there should be groups for the next season coming out in the next couple weeks, so you can see who's going to be in what group, what new teams we have, who comes back, and stuff like that. But again, congratulations to CSU Long Beach for their victory here in the CSL Finals, taking home that $2,000, and congratulations to Illinois for their second place finish. Some great games through the regular season and into playoffs. It was nice to see them do well. Maurice the Beast, maybe somebody that some people may not know or some people know from before. Great captain player, showcasing his ability to play there as well. Congratulations to both these teams, and I'm going to pass off to Blizzard. You got anything else left to say before we call it for the season and come back next year?
I'm excited for next season. You know, coming into this, at least for me, it was a little questionable about what we were going to see because, like you said, Toronto upsets Purdue, who we thought was just a powerhouse, and then Toronto comes out and blows up Cal State Long Beach in game 1, but then Cal State Long Beach comes back, and we even said it at the end of last week, not sure what exactly we're going to get in these finals, and Cal State, they showed up and proved that they belong there and they won it, and I'm really excited for next season just to see what's going to come out, just see if any of these teams can repeat. But I'm also excited for some of the newer teams that we saw, like the one that pops into my mind is UMKC, who started out really rocky, but then over the course of the season, they started to look stronger and stronger and stronger. And I'm just really excited to see what these teams might be able to bring to the CSL after having some time to practice and getting another season.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see who's going to come back stronger, who may not come back based on, sometimes people get real life stuff takes over and you can't do everything you want. But we encourage everyone that's in chat. Obviously, you guys are doing the ice giveaway right now. But if any of you guys are not on a CSL team and are in college, I mean, all it takes is a couple people. The story of CSU Long Beach is actually interesting, where they actually met in this, like two of them were in the same class and knew each other, and they didn't even know they played Vainglory together, and now they go all the way to win it. So it's kind of an interesting story. We'll get more of that to you guys. Don't forget to follow cstarleague.com to check out our new news articles, and on Twitter, cstarleague, or you can check out the Vainglory one, which is CSL Vainglory on Twitter. We'll type that out in chat for you as well, guys. But again, thank you everyone for stopping by tonight. Hang in there for the quad coming up next, and we will see you guys next year for the second season, or of the second semester, I guess is the easiest way to call it, of CSL Vainglory. So thank you again, guys, and I'll see you next time.
Have a good one.
Can stay right here, we will play until somehow you can find a slightly different frame of mind. Right here in my arms, away from all harm, you'll be safe from all